Then may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
The following is a world-class Bullshitters exclusive.
We are live! Submit to the High Council here on World Class Bullshitters. I'm your host, Jeff Hicks, and with me tonight is my co-host, Caffeinated Wolf.
What is going on? As Jeff said backstage, I am just some guy, evidently.
I love that channel.
I was the last person to get the link in the back, ladies and gentlemen. That's incredibly fine. I'm not even mad about it. What is going on, chat? I won't be petty, not in the least. Hail to y'all. We appreciate every damn one of you. Hail to the High Council. Jeff, let's have a fun show, shall we?
We shall. Now, we're joined by, he's just one of our other co-hosts at this point. You know him, we love him. Say hello to ScriptDoctor.
Oh, wow. I wasn't expecting that honorarium, but thanks so much for that. Happy to be here. Happy to talk some Star Wars and Marvel, and who else knows for tonight with such an awesome panel of guests and the wonderful people out there in the chat.
Yes, folks, to the wonderful people in the chat, hit that thumbs up button to let YouTube know that you enjoy this content. It's not for our egos, it's for the algorithm's sake. And we know you enjoy us each and every week. Now, folks, each and every week we strive to bring you something new and unique and fun. And tonight, our two guests are just that. So first off, say hello to the one, the only Master of the TDS.
Hello. Nice to be here.
Thanks for joining us this evening. And we're also joined by the Writing Raven. How are you doing this evening?
I am well. Thank you for having us, sir.
Well, the pleasure is all ours. Now, folks, tonight we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to be talking about the stuff in the title, as you know, but there's a whole lot more to be discussed. It's not just it's not even a slow news week. Things have been getting crazy out there in the world of pop culture, geek culture, all of that fun stuff. It's like that weird summer doldrum period is finally over, and WCBS is here to continue to go on that journey with you. A few short show notes real quick. First off, folks, welcome to 193,000. Thank you to everybody who keeps joining the channel. We have new members, we have new audience members, all sorts of stuff. So I'd like to thank everybody for joining us. You guys really liked the toy video, so make sure you guys check it out if you haven't seen that one yet. It's doing quite well. And folks, I'll be talking to WDW Pro and a few other new YouTubers that you haven't seen here on the channel in the coming days. So be on the lookout for that content and a whole lot more. And tomorrow we have a follow-up to our toy video where we discuss some of the WDW Pro shocking information. So make sure you guys are subscribed to Pro's channel to get that directly, and then hear WCBS's take on that as well. So, Master of TDS, Writing Raven, you guys have not been here before, but we start out every show with something special, and that is the word of the day. Now, we let the audience dictate what the word of the day is, and our friend Shrubbles08 does not disappoint. Each and every week, Shrubbles08 is the first... Well, hold on. No, Sejorjan actually tied with Shrubbles08. So, we have two words of the day, guys, since we have two special guests. First off, from Sejorjan, who says he pushes Shrubbles08 in honor of Master TDS, the 10K Twitter milestone. Congratulations for that, by the way.
Thank you.
The word of the day is Goth. Hot Tub Goth Machine. The Gothinator. Star Goth. Yeah, whatever. And Power Rangers, Goth Force.
I'd watch Goth Force, honestly.
I'd make Goth Force. That'd be a really fun comic.
I'll
It would
help.
be a different take.
I'll definitely help with that. I'll give you all the gothic advice you need.
Oh, perfect. I always want honesty in my work. So we'll talk. We'll consult some people. And Andrew, you and I can work on, even though I know you don't do the art, but you and I can go to a Hot Topic together, and you can help me design some of the stuff there.
No. Hot Topic isn't Goth anymore. They're now a fandom shop.
What isn't a fandom shop these days? GameStop,
No,
there's barely
seriously,
a game store
over the
anymore.
last 10 years, Hot Topic has moved away from Goth and gone only to fandom. I used to be able to go to Hot Topic to get anything I wanted, Then I had to go to the back in the clearance section for the goth stuff, and now it doesn't even exist there.
So we have a gap in the industry.
Except online.
So someone needs to set up a new store called Goth Topic to supplant Hot Topic not being Goth anymore. And there you go. You got a moneymaker for the Goth market.
Well, we've also got Killstar, Dolls Kill, Disturbia, Rogan Wolf, and a few others, but they're all horribly expensive. Hot Topic was the affordable one.
And they all have terrible return policies, too, don't forget.
I hate that about places.
Yeah, but goth boots aren't cheap!
Yes, but returning them becomes an ordeal, so...
Why would I want to return awesome boots?
Because they don't fit?
But they're awesome boots. I would just have them on display.
Yeah, no.
Aw, you're no fun.
Folks, if you want me to buy Goth Topic, the domain is available. There we go, Script. Let's go in on it. It's a whopping $9.99. We'll start funding some of the projects for that right now.
Prices that are 6 feet under.
Ooh, should every
There you go.
Yeah. We should come up with a satanic store where everything costs $666. It'd just be like a dollar store variant, but you know.
I think you'd have to compete with Blackcraft Cult for that.
Oh, that's a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I think.
I
don't actually know what their prices. I don't actually know what their prices are. I just do know that they are basically a satanic shop, more or less.
They were all over LA. Satanic shops, not that place, but yeah. Now I want Goth Force to be a thing, but Goth to the Future. What's another title, guys?
Honey, I
for a
Shrunk
few
the
Goths
Goths.
more.
Return of the Goth.
The Last Goth Fighter?
The Goth Identity.
Goth in Present Danger.
Goths on a plane.
That I would see. That would be awesome.
That's just like Final Destination.
7,000
What was
Goths
the-
under the sea.
Hey.
Journey
That
to
seems
the
a little-
center of the Goth. Yeah.
The joke's on you, Script. The journey to the center of the Goth, there's just nothingness.
It's empty.
No, that's the emos.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. So then, the journey to the center of the Goth would just be the bloodiest experience we've ever seen.
Perhaps.
Or there would just be a bunch of Goth dudes there.
Sorry.
Behave.
I'm sorry. I started bloodlusting. I'll be quiet now.
Behave.
I'll be quiet now.
So I gotta ask, and this isn't meant to be a joke, do you guys like the holiday of Halloween? Because this is my favorite. I've already started this early.
Are you kidding? I love the entire month of October.
It's the best month to have a birthday in. Because, see,
Libra.
Halloween's great as a kid because you can dress up and eat candy. And I went to a Catholic school, so we got the day after Halloween off because it's a religious day. So I could always stay out and trick-or-treat, to 10 o'clock back then, the olden days. But as an adult, it gets better in college because you could go to parties, drink, hang out, still wear the costumes. As an adult, it's the same thing. I just got invited to a Halloween party as well, and I'm in Halloween mode. I don't have, a pumpkin spice mode like a lot of my people on Facebook do, but I'm here for horror movies.
How many white girls follow you on Facebook?
What are things I won't talk about on air for 500, Alex? Okay,
All right. Well, that's fair.
that's my personal life. You can text me about it. I'll happily tell you that.
Okay.
I don't think the audience
only-
wants to know me like that.
The only problem with Halloween is that it's a pagan holiday and we're Jewish, so we can't actually celebrate it.
Oh.
We have kind of an alternative. I mean, it's not the same. It's called Purim.
I like to call it the Jewish Halloween, but you give candy instead of taking it. There's also mandatory scripture reading and a big feast.
It's better. It's more fun than it sounds.
Except when the Megillah reading is pure cringe.
Yeah, let's not
But
go there.
listening is mandatory.
Well, I dated a Jewish girl for 4 years. We celebrated all the holidays, both Jewish and non. So, we celebrated Purim, but we also hit Halloween pretty hard. Halloween's just the best of both worlds.
And what about Devil's
Halloween
Night?
is-
You guys do the Devil's Night stuff, October 30th?
Well,
We did in college because I lived in Michigan, and Detroit's big for Devil's Night, especially in the movie The Crow.
I thought that was a New Jersey thing.
No, it's also a
Sports
Michigan
reference?
thing.
Nobody? Okay, that's fine.
Oh, the fucking hockey team?
Yeah.
I'd boo you if it wasn't. Never mind. I
don't
owe
even
you-
like Jersey. It was there, okay? It was there. It existed. There was an empty space where a joke could fit, and so it happened.
Thank you. I'm glad that you filled the void.
You're welcome.
We also have another word of the day from Shrebbles08, who, you gotta be up on your game, man. Shajorjan beat you in every way with that Goth topic. So, Shrebbles08, thank you. He says the word of the day is blue waffle. Ahsoka's blue waffle. Disney, the Force has blue waffles. Dude, where's my blue waffle? And a fistful of blue waffle.
I think, dude, where's my blue waffle?
Ferris
It's my
Bueller's
favorite.
blue waffle. There you go.
Yeah. Now you do the whole thing. Ferris Bueller's blue waffle off. It sounds funnier. Waffle off. I like that word. That's a new word.
Are we gonna have
Honey,
a
are
waffle
you
off?
insulted at all? I know how much you love waffles.
No, I'm just trying to think of good ones like I was gonna say breakfast blue waffle, like Breakfast Club, but that's really work. So
You got the Blue Waffle
and,
Brothers.
and Blue Waffle Club.
Ooh,
that works.
the Blue Waffle Brothers just sound awesome.
Yeah.
We're on a
we have their-
mission from what is it? The Pancake
We're
Factory.
on a mission from Aunt Jemima is what it is.
Yeah, something like that.
Folks, if you want any of these things turned into skits or comics, let us know in the chat or send us an email to worldclassbs@mail.com, thebestmail.com, and we'll maybe make something happen. One more Blue Waffle title, and then I promise I'll stop. How about Harold and Blue Waffle go to White Castle? That's a mouthful, but I think it works.
Is it a mouthful of blue waffles?
How about
actually-
the Blue Waffle Bride?
Green eggs and blue waffles.
Okay, that was probably the best.
Yeah, it
I
was.
call that a
Oh no, Shrebel's got a good one in the chat. Flight of the Blue Waffle.
I mean, there aren't any of these titles I wouldn't watch, but I just have to look up what Blue Waffle actually means. Oh, I don't want to look that up.
Blue
Like, that's
Waffle
No,
2.
you don't.
Electric Bluegaloo.
Okay, so I could get down with that. Any movie where a guy dances with his broom is okay in my book. So, Master of TDS, Writing Raven, I'll ask you guys this question first. Are you watching Ahsoka currently?
No.
No, I mean, we're not watching it currently. We do hear about it based on like everybody else who is watching it, but we aren't watching it currently. And I think I kind of feel okay with that.
My brother's watching it and he agrees that it sucks, though he is still enjoying it.
It's one of the weirdest shows in terms of the Star Wars streaming ones because, you know, this channel is very critical. Put it like this. We love Star Wars. We'll be critical of stuff that's bad, but praise stuff that's good. We liked The Mandalorian when it first came out. Folks, you can go back and listen to our videos about that during the old days of the High Council, where the other co-hosts didn't like it, or were more on the fence, and I was very pro-Mandalorian because finally something good had come from Star Wars, a brand that I had loved so much, and we were finally getting something unique and different and cool, yet familiar. But over the course of the last few seasons, The Mandalorian has become more of a chore to watch. Now, Ahsoka isn't as overtly bad as something like The Book of Boba Fett or Obi-Wan, but for me, Ahsoka looks nice, but it's paced like molasses, where it's so slow to get where they're trying to get to, and there are 3 episodes left, and I feel like they wasted the last 3 episodes.
Yeah, I've been in DMV lines that move faster than Ahsoka.
But were they California DMV lines? That's a
one was.
whole nother box of bullshit.
That's why I never switched my license over from Ohio. I didn't want to wait in those
Smart.
lines.
California DMV is like, it moves at the rate of petrification.
Yes, it does. You can spend literally your whole day in there and maybe not get anything done.
That's a very California thing right there. Wasting time and getting nothing done. But, so Script, you are tolerating Ahsoka, I should say? Because it doesn't sound like you're really enjoying it if you are watching it.
I mean, it's a charitable way to equate that. Yeah, I mean, its biggest flaw is that Ahsoka is about Star Wars. It's not about anything else. It's not a story between fathers and sons. It's not a story about responsibility or the burdens of adulthood. It's a story about Star Wars. And that's kind of boring. At least for me.
Yeah. Not just for you on this panel, at least. I mean, I love the essence of Star Wars. It's funny how I've been seeing a lot more content come out about it recently, and I've kind of had this weird flip where I was so dispassionate about it, and then maybe last weekend, or maybe it was even this weekend, I had watched it over at a friend's house. We caught the original trilogy, and I went, "Oh yeah, there's a reason why I used to love this shit." And then I started to feel more inspired to make the content about it and to talk about it and the toy video and all that stuff. But I find it an interesting place, and I want everyone to, give me your opinions on this. I feel like we're at a point where it's never going to recover and get, back to its great heights. But I think enough people are just going to walk away from it. It's going to go dormant. But the diehard fans will still have the good memories. Do you think there's going to be because I don't think there's ever going to be an apology from Disney or rewriting of the trilogies or anything like that. I think
those two things are never going to happen.
I remember when we were guaranteed that they were rewriting the movies and they were changing this and changing that. It's like, I stayed quiet for most of that shit because I didn't want to kill anybody's buzz, but that was fucking stupid. They just spent billions of dollars to market. Sorry, they spent, close to $1 billion across those 3 movies, probably more, to market and produce those movies and make the content and put out the theme park and put out the hotel and do all this stuff. There is no way in hell that they were going to just erase it. I mean, we have another trilogy coming out with the first one about Rey. So if anything, they've doubled down on this. But I guess what I'm trying to say in a roundabout way is I've come to terms with Star Wars and accepted that it's on its last legs this time. But how do you guys feel about it? Are you feeling ambivalent towards Star Wars, angry, or happy?
I want to say what my dad actually feels about it, because my dad I grew up watching Star Wars with my dad. That's how I was, exposed to it. It was kind of one of the first things that we bonded on. But he is, if we're going to be blunt, and he'll forgive me for this, he's a normie. He is.
Both your parents are, honestly.
And that's okay. And that's okay. Like, he watched Obi-Wan. He thought it was okay. He's like, I wanted to see people use laser swords. That I saw people use laser swords, right? But with Ahsoka, he was watching some of it, and he came up with this great way of describing current Star Wars. And I already brought it up once, and a lot of people kind of agreed with it, but I wanted to bring it up here because I really feel that this is probably the best way I could think of to describe it. He said, it's a Star Wars-like show within a Star Wars-like universe.
I'll agree with that.
And that's what it is. It's because it is Star Wars in the name of it, but it's not. It doesn't have the heart that the original Star Wars had. It's just like, this is content that we've created that is in the Star Wars universe, and you should watch it because we have characters that you like and all this stuff, and that's great. Some people like it, and that's their thing. That's cool, but otherwise, it's just. It is Star Wars, but it's not the same. So I really thought what he had to say about it was really telling, because again, he's not into this stuff. He doesn't follow any of this stuff. He doesn't keep up with this stuff. So the fact that he's like, I tried to watch Ahsoka, it was so slow and boring, and I just felt like it was a Star Wars show within, a Star Wars-like universe. It was like, wow, that's. If even my dad is seeing it, how many people can we say have been seeing it now if they haven't already?
Yeah. What about you, Raven? Wait, so we already asked you that, or did we?
I mean, it's more or less the same. Like I said, my brother has been watching it. We recently had a little discussion about Ahsoka. He asked me if I was watching it. I told him what I had heard about it, and he said, yeah, that's pretty much right. She should be dead. He agreed with me on all the crap that they were doing. But he's still enjoyed the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, Mando Season 3, Boba Fett, and Blood Origin.
Well, that's a different can of worms.
Yes, which someone decided meant that I'm a terrible sister.
Yeah, we'll not go there.
But basically, my memory of Star Wars is, in our old house back in my hometown, we had this fireplace downstairs by the TV. And my first memory of my parents introducing us to Star Wars was us in the winter sitting with the fire lit and roasting marshmallows while watching A New Hope.
Ooh.
That is always going to be a great memory.
It's a good first Star Wars memory.
I'm a little
That's
jealous.
good,
I've
yeah.
never done that.
Yeah, good times.
That's
And
a
then
good
my dad forgot to open the flue one day and melted the latch and filled the house with smoke. And we never were able to use the fireplace again.
Not as good a memory.
Yeah, I
No,
know.
but you're all safe, so
Yeah.
I'm
that
okay
was,
to
like,
laugh.
20 years ago now, maybe. So, but yeah, my dad is actually the nerd among the family. He's the reason I actually got into comic books because my dad and uncle are both comic book collectors. My dad even got to meet Stan Lee when he was a kid. And basically, like, my dad would sometimes not let me read his comic books because they would be not child appropriate or rather just PG-13 kind of stuff. So I would also, on Sabbath, when he was at synagogue, I would sneak into his room and steal the comics so I could read them.
Do you have any memories of like one that you snuck in to read and you were like, wow, this is a game changer? Like, what was that book for you?
I think one about X-23 before she was Wolverine. One about her coming to terms with just being her own person.
Okay.
Don't remember the title of it, but also there was the one of Bucky taking up the mantle of Captain America after Steve had died for a while. And him constantly comparing himself to Steve and knowing that Steve would never make these mistakes. Oh, I'm never going to live up to his legacy. But also then meeting his old war buddies and telling them about what had happened to him and them forgiving him for everything he had done. That's what should have happened in the Winter Soldier show!
Don't even get me started on what should have happened in the Winter Soldier show, because everything should have been different in the Winter Soldier show. I've never been... Like, we folks, you can document angry rants here on the channel, how I felt about stuff, but I wish you could have all been sitting in my living room with me at the finale of Winter Soldier Falcon, because I screamed out loud, what the fuck is this show? I was so pissed off. I hated that speech that Falcon...
Do better?
Captain. Yeah, what is that? The bad guy, oh, well, they're just misunderstood. They're not really the villains. They may have killed people or this or that, but you gotta do
Terrorists.
better. Yeah, thank you.
Not allowed to use that word anymore. Me.
Too bad. That's what they are.
Uh-huh. Hi.
I don't want to. I'm
USA
sorry.
Did nothing wrong.
Yeah, but to go back on my to go back on my reminiscing, yeah, I had good memories. I used to LARP with my brother at home, the one I get along with. We used to pretend to be our own Marvel OCs. I would just go on missions with the X-Men together. And I'm talking, this is a brother who's about 6 years younger than me. That's how well we got along back then. I mean, we still do, because now we still talk about pop culture stuff, even though he enjoys everything, and I'm dissing on it on our YouTube channel.
So I've definitely noticed that, where people will have that friend that likes everything. And, like, I have a buddy, I won't say his name, but he sometimes pops into the chat, and he likes everything, and I mean everything. If it comes out, you know he's going to like it. And it's so weird. It always takes me a minute to think, do I hate everything? Or is it, do I find it genuinely that bad? And I usually come to the term of, it's not really me, because we have this audience, and most people that I interact with feel the same way. Maybe it's confirmation bias, maybe it's something else, but I always find it interesting when people, especially that do it like we do on YouTube, always have that very, like, pro-everything person. But they're always good to talk to, because sometimes I'll find value in the thing they're talking about. And I'll go, oh, maybe I got to give it another watch. Or maybe I should see the Dungeons & Dragons movie or something like that. And I usually end up having a good time. But how's that work with you and your brother? Does he ever, like, does his optimism ever have you take a second look at anything and you find yourself...
No, I would just, last Passover, when we were having the discussion, when I discovered he actually was enjoying Witcher Blood Origin, and I ended up having read the books, I told him everything that they did wrong, everything that they should have done, and how everything was being destroyed, blah, 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 blah. You know, all the typical pessimistic takes that you hear everybody say these days, but with a passion. I was actually being passionate about it because, you know, it's stuff that we care about. And he was saying, yeah, but it was still so good. He didn't really bring any arguments. He just genuinely was enjoying himself. So I would say my brother is just more of an optimist in this regard, and he just wants to be entertained. I mean, he did agree with me after the fact when I told him not to go see Rise of Skywalker because it was terrible, and then he texted me afterward. He came out of the movie and said, "You were right."
Is that the worst? This is for you and Master of TDS. Is that the worst of this new trilogy, or is it still the Last Jedi?
So that's actually something only I can answer, and the reason is because we both haven't seen The Rise of Skywalker. We specifically didn't.
Oh, good for us.
And I also still have not seen The Last Jedi. The only thing of it of each of those that I have ever seen is Cinema Sins.
I'd love to trade positions with you right now because I still think about that movie like War Scars. It's terrible.
Your brain has my condolences.
I got to see The Last Jedi, and I had hope because I had seen The Force Awakens, and I was like, I don't really like this, but I don't hate it. You know, like it's a kind of okay, maybe it's like a getting people back interested in this kind of thing. And I didn't really like it. Was like a rehash of A New Hope, and I was kind of like, I don't really like this, but I don't hate it, so I'll see what happens. And when I saw Luke at the end, I was like, I really hope they lean into that and whatever. And they didn't. And I just remember watching it in the theater and seeing, you know, Rey hand Luke the lightsaber and he just tossing it over his shoulder. And in that moment, like, I have never liked Star Wars again after that. Like, it's just not been the same. I mean, I always have the memories of with my dad, and no one can take those away. But since then, I just can't watch it. We did watch The Mandalorian Season 1, which was okay. But aside from that, we haven't really watched anything. And it's just because I can't look at that the same anymore. I'm sure there's some people who swear by The Last Jedi, and that's cool. If they enjoyed it, that's their thing. But fundamentally, it wasn't what made Star Wars Star Wars. It just wasn't. Star Wars wasn't about let's destroy our characters to prop up new ones, or let's do that, let's pick it apart. It was supposed to be a story that had more heart to it. And I just felt like in that moment, like I was like, Luke would never do that. He would never do that. And that was just, for me, it just disconnect at that point. Raven got to not even see it, but I just remember ever since then that, you know, Star Wars is the same. So if you ask me which I felt was the worst, I can't really say if Rise of Skywalker is, because at that point I was already gone. Like, they had lost me. It was very easy to tell, and I was like, oh, I could see it now. I know where I could watch it, and I'm just like, I don't even really want to. Like, even as like a joke, I know that if I could like watch it and laugh at it, that's what I try to do. For example, on Twitter, I try to take things that I see from Ahsoka, whatever, and make it funny, right? Because I want to laugh, but I can't even look at, you know, Rise of Skywalker or anything and go like, yes, I can laugh about this. I'm sure I could find something, but I can't even bother to watch it. It's true what they say, when apathy sets in, that's the worst thing that can happen.
Oh, I agree.
It literally, you can't come back from that. You just can't. And I'm just hoping, you know, I've been like abstaining from it, and I'm just hoping that eventually it gets to a point where I can watch the original trilogy again and, you know, enjoy it like I used to. Because I can't even look at that now. I'm just like, yeah, and it all ends with him drinking green milk on a planet and being a grumpy old man. You know, that makes me so excited. But
now, Script, I wanted to ask you, can you think of another example where a classic character is written as poorly as Luke Skywalker was in those movies? The new ones, excuse me.
Oh, that's tricky. I can think of a classic not so much classic character, but a supporting character who is written kind of darkly, although I think it was part of the series, and that would be Felix Leiter in the James Bond films when his wife gets killed and he's eaten partially by a shark.
Oh yeah,
I know people didn't really appreciate that, but it's hard. It's hard to think of any sort of abandonment of a character that has resonated in pulp culture that much offhand.
Because it's one of those situations where I always equate it to Nintendo console launches. You know, I don't really interact with a lot of Nintendo players, but when you go to let's say Best Buy when the console is about to come out, there's a line of everybody. And you're not just talking like gamers, you're talking like old people, young people. You're like, wow, everybody really does like Nintendo. It's really something that is a part of so many people's lives. And it's a diverse group of people, like the real diverse group of people. Mm-hmm. And that's how it felt with Star Wars and Luke Skywalker, because it's like, everybody came out of the woodwork to have a complaint about that. And it's not just, you know, the stereotypical angry people that you see on the internet. It was everybody. It was celebrities. It was Luke Skywalker himself. That was just one of those rare examples where it's like, in pop culture, it's like, where were you when Luke Skywalker was killed? It's like, oh, I remember this. And for years, I mean, people are still talking about it to great result. I mean, people cared about that way more than I could have ever imagined. Because, you know, I grew up in the era with the original trilogy was out for a while, for many years, and then the prequels came out when I was in grade school. And either people didn't like Star Wars or they liked the newer stuff. But it was so refreshing when that, you know, when the stuff, even though the Luke stuff was terrible, it's like we all kind of found each other like, oh yeah, old school fans. And we all kind of formed this group. And,
you know what? Now that you said that, I am reminded of something I did bring up on this show a few weeks ago, or almost a few months ago, actually. And that is Jim Phelps from Mission Impossible. And the reason I don't think it hit as hard in comparison to Mission Impossible fans as it did with Star Wars is the fact that Peter Graves, when he read that he was going to be killed off or eventually turn into a bad guy, he refused to do the part. And so they got John Voight instead. And the same thing also happened to Martin Landau, who refused to take part in it as well, because they didn't like the idea of treatment of those characters that they had played for many years and had a solid fan base, nowhere near as huge as Star Wars was, at least at the time when the sequel trilogy was coming back and people were hugely excited. But Mission Impossible had a revival series that in the 80s was performing so well in the ratings, the network thought they could actually compete with the Cosby Show, only to be completely humiliated by that. But it did allow them to start a successful film franchise that has been going on since 1996. Definitely spearheaded by Tom Cruise, but it did have that type of level of fan betrayal. And I think the reason it was not hitting so hard is because it wasn't Peter Graves playing. It was another character. And I think if Mark Hamill refused to return for The Last Jedi because he didn't like the direction of his character and they recast him with someone else, I think fans would be equally upset, but less upset with Mark Hamill and the direction he has gone publicly in recent years when it comes to Star Wars and other takes on social media.
Does it bother anyone else that the new Mission Impossible movie underperformed the way it did? I know
that actually pissed me the hell off. Hold on. Everything stopped.
Is it bad that we still haven't seen it?
Here it is. You know, you're part of the freaking problem, Raven.
We've been behind on the Mission Impossible movies.
No. Hold on. This is a problem. Everybody has been bitching for the last several years in this space about how shitty movies are, and truth be told, yeah, most of them have been. But then a good, fun, freaking action movie comes out, and where are people at? Crickets. Where? No? Nobody?
I mean,
yeah, that's what I thought. And that's a problem. There's this stupid-ass mentality of, oh, well, just everything automatically that's coming out is going to be some raging leftist, woke, proselytization pamphlet garbage. And the fact of the matter is, that's not the case. It's primarily stuff that comes out of Disney that preaches that. And almost everybody else, it's either benign or it's non-existent. But there are people that have to make it up anyway and try to attempt to insert it in there. Because without that, they don't have shit to talk about in their daily lives. I'm sorry, that makes you the pathetic one. What you really should do is get your ass in the movie theater and go to see an IMAX showing of a great freaking action film that's a hell of a lot of fun. That movie underperforming in the way that it did really, really upsets me on a personal level. That is my favorite movie franchise, and the movie was really well done. People bitch about, terrible special effects in all of these movies. Okay, well, this is a movie with almost entirely practical effects and stunt work. So, and then they bitch about, people aren't actually doing their own stunts. Tom Cruise doing all of his own stunts, much to the gray hair of probably everybody on set, right?
That's why they filmed him first.
He freaking practically snapped his ankle in the last one. Or was it Rogue Nation? I think it was Rogue Nation was the one that he almost snapped his ankle. Yeah. This is an issue. Movies that are actually not garbage should be supported. They're not entitled to anybody's money. Make no mistake. No project, no product is entitled to your dollar. However, if we profess to want good content back in our entertainment, then when good content presents itself, you should probably consider supporting it. That way we can encourage more of it.
Now, I'm pretty sure they filmed 7 and 8 back to back, so we're going to get it, but I hope it picks up because I want more movies like that. I'm very happy to continue to support my Regal Pass and do all this stuff, but I don't want to go see CGI fests or superhero movies as much as I used to. Hell, I don't really want to see anything coming out in the superhero genre. And, we're going to be talking about this reboot apparently with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I don't think that's going to work out too well for them if they really think that rebooting stuff and going with alternate realities and stuff, hoping people will come back. It's like you can sell a multiverse, but you can't convince people that it's brand new. You can't convince these people that you're going to have a brand new experience. It's like, it's Iron Man, but a different Iron Man. It's this. It's the same shit you've all seen. And that's why, Mission Impossible, while there are 7 movies, they do offer the same adrenaline buzz, but the stories are different enough that I'm engaged. And there aren't 50 movies like Mission Impossible. There was John Wick and maybe Operation Fortune and a few other action movies this year. But how many movies were like Ant-Man or Black Adam or Blue Beetle or The Flash? Like, all those movies are very much the same bullshit. Only Guardians was the only decent superhero movie I think that came out this year.
Yeah. I would concur on that. And even then, just in spite of the fact that it was a pretty popular franchise, an unexpectedly popular franchise in the MCU, even with all the bad movies that came out around it, it still is only able to pull in like 700 million worldwide globally. So that's a lot of the audience that just did not even care at that point with the Marvel brand in order for it to even cross the $1 billion mark.
Right now at Targets across the country, you can find Marvel toys for half off. And I don't mean like old ones that have been on the shelves for a long time, like the new stuff.
Yeah, so movies that are just barely out or not even out yet.
Yeah, like the Marvels. You got Nia DaCosta going on social media complaining, "Oh, I'm at a disadvantage because of my race." It's like, lady, any criticism I have of this movie has nothing to do with your identity. Has nothing to do with your personal views. It's everything that I see on camera is what dictates my interest or not in a picture. And so, hearing you complain about stuff, it's like you have you don't have how would I phrase this? You have a Herculean task of making people care about a movie that people actively hate. A TV show that people are very apathetic towards. And I get it. You got a lot to deal with. But you can't get people angry and riled up to go see a movie. And you can't use that kind of shit to get people to go support it. Like TDS, Raven, how do you guys feel when you see filmmakers or other creatives try to use that either guilt or the anger or the outrage card to entice people to go, or even incite them to go see a movie? Like, I just think it's a terrible marketing tactic.
I don't really respond with rage. I'm usually just more like, ugh. It's when I see horribly written scripts that I get pissed off. As a screenwriter, I can now call myself a screenwriter, as I am in the writer's room at Epicverse. But yeah, if that is what pisses me off the most, is the horrible writing. Everything else, I don't really care.
I think that it's annoying because one of the things that I see, and it's not actually where they play the card of like, oh, I'm this ethnicity or this whatever. What really bothers me is when they scream about the character's sexuality. That bothers me because you never hear, they always say, oh, well, we need to have this representation, we need to have all this stuff, and it's like, fine, whatever, just do it. You never hear people marketing a regular movie by going, attention, there is a straight white male in this movie and he likes this. Do you come watch our movie now? You never hear that because it's not normal. So why would you take these things that you are trying to normalize and then do the opposite? You're literally singling them out and saying, attention, we have this gender and this blah in our movie. It's like, okay, tell me the plot. Where's the plot? Why am I invested in this character? Why do I want to watch this? But this character's gay. Don't you want to come see it? No, not really. Like, I need some context here. And they do that. And then if they really want to normalize this stuff like they claim, what they're doing is exactly the opposite. And that's what I find funny. I guess it doesn't make me that mad. I just find it, I guess, infuriating because you don't see this. And people like to say, well, these people never got representation before, so it's important they do now. Okay, but in the past, we had movies that had this kind of representation. And guess what? It was marketed based on whether or not the movie was good and whether or not it had a good plot. It didn't matter that we had this person in it or this gender, this whatever. I don't care. Tell me, is the movie good? What is the plot? What is the storyline? If that's not there and you're telling me, well, we have a gender fluid this in the movie, great, good for you. I'm not going to go watch it, though.
Yeah. I mean, my only instance of ever seeing that diversity stuff ever working was in the third game of my favorite gaming franchise, Darksiders. In Darksiders 3, basically the plot is you're fighting the 7 deadly sins, and they made Lust a non-binary character. But it actually worked for the character because Lust affects both men and women. And the only thing I thought was weird was them actually referring to Lust with they pronouns. But otherwise, I thought it was extremely well done, and I've never seen that since.
And they didn't market it that way. They didn't go, look, we have this character in it. They didn't market with Lust at all. They marketed with the main character.
The thing people forget here is that these people aren't actually particularly talented writers, or if they are, they hide it really well. And so they don't know very much about writing. They don't know very much about character because they don't know very much about people as individuals, people as human beings. And all they do know is XYZ identity. And so that's how they market whatever movie. And that way they have something that's a fallback excuse. So if the movie fails, oh, it failed because people are this or people are that, and they hate this kind of thing. They hate gay people. They hate black people, whatever. That's their fallback. That's their excuse. This may not, obviously, it's not a blanket statement that applies to literally everybody, but it can certainly be applied in a lot of the big budget things that we see coming out of especially Disney. Disney is the biggest perpetrator of this because, again, like I said before, you don't see much of this out of a lot of the other studios. If you do, it's on a far more minor level comparatively because a lot of the other studios have sort of caught on that isn't really working. The problem is those studios that have caught on, a lot of them also didn't have the liquidity that Disney did. And so when they take a hit, it actually hurts them more because they don't have the same financial backing that Disney does. So it looks like they're doing worse than they already are. And people have a good memory. People are sick of this crap, and so they're not supporting these studios. And even if the studio puts out something that's a legitimately good movie, a lot of people right now are in this frame of mind of, you know what, to hell with it. I'm not gonna.
Oh, God, yeah.
That one game, like I said, I have never seen another instance where it was put in, but actually done well and worked for the character. I've never seen it since. And honestly, I'm never going to let that go, because all of these other places could really do to learn from the way that game was written. I mean, not everyone liked the third game because it was kind of missing the soul of the original two, which the fourth one I ended up making up for. But still, I can't get over that one character, I didn't think much of it because it just worked.
Well, I was thinking back when you were making a point a moment ago about some of this stuff, and I always think back to the movie Independence Day, which has, like, basically if Independence Day was released today, the outraged people would complain about everything in it. Because if you boil it down, it's kind of like the crap they try to make today, but the 90s was a much different time where they had, I guess, I don't want to say advancements in society because that makes it sound like it was this bigger thing than it was, but it just was a different time where people were more, I guess people were open to the idea because they weren't being beaten over the head. And that's why I think a lot of people have lost their tolerance, is because they're trying to be taught lessons that they grew up with and learned already. And so it comes off from a place on high of like, why is Hollywood trying to teach me that racism is bad? I've known this my whole life. Do they think I'm an idiot? And then you get angry about that.
I mean,
Yeah, it's patronizing.
Why anybody needs to say racism is bad? It's bad to be a Yahtzee. It's bad to do this. It's bad to do that. And no shit, Sherlock. That's kind of most people's default setting. Is to
the worst
know
is
that.
the worst is when they call my husband a Nazi.
Oh, I had that happen yesterday. That's the walk in the park for me. They do it every single day.
We're Jewish, and he gets called a Yahtzee.
These people.
So stupid.
We've gotten to a point where it's just these people think it's normal to do this. It's anybody who doesn't agree with me is this, and it's like, you really don't know what that word means, do you? But
I get called an angry white guy every day on the internet.
Well, they're half right.
Yeah, they're half right, but I get lumped in. I'm like, I'm not the channel you think I am. I'm the guy that films the Star Wars toys and does the other stuff. But they're always like, oh, the angry white guy from World Quest Bullshit. I'm like, who are you talking about? It's just so funny to me how there are these blanket statements that the internet loves to use as like, oh, we're going to discredit you. It's like, that doesn't really work here. But, yeah, Darian217, WTF is right. But I agree with Go and Commando about how we've regressed as a society since the 90s. It's always frustrating to me where, like, look, I get it. There are bigger issues in the world than entertainment. But we're an entertainment-based channel, so we're not going to sit and talk to you about taxes or, I don't know, the guy that hurt his leg last night on Monday Night Football or anything like that. But just strictly from the lens of what our channel covers, it definitely feels like we're in backwards land. And every week, something new happens, something new pops up that makes me just kind of question, like, are we getting to the point where we're going backwards to then make forward progress and people want to act like we've come a long way as a society when realistically 30 years ago we'd already, achieved that stuff. So,
yeah, I would say we were, in entertainment-wise, we relatively achieved a sweet spot and a good foundation for things. But the thing is that it never got the chance to settle. And I think that's where things kind of got off the rails. When it doesn't have a chance to settle, to actually allow people to think about it, to get used to some of the ideas, especially if it's something that doesn't quite agree with their own personal philosophies, that causes an issue, because instead of having them be able to sit and ponder, the next new thing is thrown at them, in which case now you're building a snowball effect on top of challenging their own personal views, as opposed to actually thinking, well, okay, let's say I do watch a television show, for instance. You got like Will and Grace, where the two male leads are homosexual, but they're not in a relationship with each other. And, it's just trying to understand, like, yes, just because they happen to love people of the same sex, they're not abusive, they're not horrible monsters, they're not corrupting people or anything of that nature. They're just trying to make their way in the world and maybe even then find like legitimate romance and a relationship and love. And on the general aspect, like, nobody sees really anything wrong with, a person wanting to fall in love with someone who's especially a consenting adult. And before that had a time to settle, we start getting into, well, now we have people that they're beyond the homosexual. They now identify as another gender, or they made up another gender, and it just keeps on going bigger and bigger in entertainment, to the point where people who are starting to get used to the idea of just, consensual adult love are now being told other things because other people have been invading this type of stuff with even darker aspects that are definitely crossing lines, and it's being foisted on the general public. And when they push back, they're being called, horrible things, when in actuality, the people that are perpetrating this are the horrible things. And when that's being ingratiated into our media, it feels like everybody has lost the narrative and they don't know what to make of the things that they would normally share with friends and family.
I think that there's probably some truth to that, at least with regards to the sexuality and the gender shit. But I don't know how much longer people needed for, I don't know, black leads or black casts to quote unquote settle in and get used to that. I don't know about anybody else, but all the best live action 90s shows that I grew up with were almost entirely black casts.
Oh yeah, Fresh
no,
Prince,
that
dude.
part was already settled in by the 80s and early
Right,
90s.
but
That's already settled because of the Jeffersons.
But that's my
And,
point. That was a hurdle we were over. We got over that hump. Yet somehow they've managed to regress us to the point where they're pretending like that whole decade, and then shows, as you said, the Jeffersons. I watched reruns of the Jeffersons with my family growing up. They're acting like that never happened. And then when we have these shows that they're, maybe it's a remake of a show that has traditionally mostly white cast, all of a sudden they recast them all as a black family or black characters instead, and they act like it's this big to-do and thing that's never been done before. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I watched Fresh Prince. I watched the Jeffersons. I watched the Cosbys. I watched
Family Matters.
Family Matters. Like, what are you talking about?
Well, they just don't want people to be remember those shows, because those shows would be their competition. They're competing with the past, and they don't want to do that.
Well, what it would do is it would destroy their narrative, and their narrative is that there are these moral heroes who are standing up for, I guess, the little guy, because black people need their hand held like it's pre-civil rights or something like that, and have never accomplished anything as a society or something before this person decided to rewrite X show as a fully black cast. Like, they just want to be the hero in their own story. They want a dragon to slay, and so if there isn't one that already exists, like there mostly isn't in today's society, they have to fabricate one. And bringing up shows like the Cosbys, the Jeffersons, Family Matters, Fresh Prince, all of that, and just the numerous black actors that I grew up watching. Jeff and I talk all the time about like Chris Tucker, Eddie Murphy, and all these guys. It's like, these were like hero characters in my childhood. Maybe not superheroes in the literal sense, but like these were characters that I loved growing up and watching, and that destroys their narrative because they were characters that fit this description that they profess and claim have never happened before the thing they decided to create or recreate. All of a sudden, they're presented with this fact that, no, this thing actually already existed and everybody universally loved it. It's the same thing with us over at the Ripverse, of why they absolutely hate us, because our success destroys literally every single narrative they have. Oh, well, people don't like original characters, so that's why we just, race swap or gender swap or sexuality swap existing ones. Really? Okay, well, I Saw 1 made $3.7 million. Oh, well, people don't like, comic book fans are all racist. They don't like black characters. Okay, well, that's interesting. I Saw 1 made $3.7 million. They don't like female characters. Interesting. Probably our most hyped book is Yaira #1, written by none other than the Twisted Twins, the Soska sisters. That's our most hyped book coming up. And that is a female character with female writers.
Next time you talk to them, ask them to bring back Hellevator. Like, I'll do what I gotta do to help fund that show, but Hellevator was the best.
I'll text them right now.
Okay, cool. I talked to them on Twitter the other day, and they're like, thanks for liking the show. I'm like, yeah, it should have been more than 8 episodes. Not that it's their fault, but God. I've met them a couple times at cons and stuff.
They're super sweet.
They were nice. Very friendly
Hey,
people.
honey, didn't they follow you today?
No, they liked something I posted today about
Okay.
it was, what's the name? The person, I forget the name, it just escaped me. The person who plays May Parker in the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man.
Rosemary.
Oh, Rosemary Harris.
Yes, she just turned 96. So I posted about how she's probably she's the best version of Aunt May that we've ever gotten.
Damn right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'll allow it.
Look, I enjoy Marissa Tomei. Hot Aunt May was a thing.
That's not
but
Aunt May.
That's not Aunt May.
No.
I want
An alternate
Spider-Man
universe,
worried about
and
her.
she's
That was
an
a
alternate
character who
universe,
died
right?
and their death meant nothing.
Well, even Ultimate Universe Aunt May she had white hair, and she was like an active senior citizen. You know, classic Aunt May is like one day away from death. Oh no, if I find out that Spider-Man...
Which is why one more day just doesn't freaking work.
Oh, don't
Hey,
get you started
Toby?
on that one.
Tobey Maguire Aunt May she looks like she's one day away from death, but she's still kicking, apparently. Good for her.
I don't know, man. She looked like she could kick some ass, especially with Doc Ock at the bank.
Oh yeah, I love that one. I'm sorry, that's like one of the best Spider-Man movies. I'm sorry. It was.
Don't apologize. That's my
really
favorite superhero
perfect.
movie.
Though Marvel obviously forgot about what makes Spider-Man good, because do you guys know what they're doing with Spider-Man in the comics now?
I stopped reading a while ago, but I try to keep up. The last thing I saw is that Doc Ock gave the Goblin formula back to Norman Osborn. Like, he forced it back onto him, and that's the last thing I saw.
So that's not what happened, actually. Now, apparently, I guess Goblin Queen came back, and with the help of whatever, ended up trying to... Norman Osborn's reformed, and he tried to... they tried to make him Goblin again, but guess who intercepts the thing? Peter. So guess who's Goblin now? It's Peter. So now we have a Green Goblin inside Peter Parker running around hunting Kraven, apparently.
Why
Well,
Kraven, though?
I'm just going to stop buying anything Spider-Man related Marvel until you get your shit together.
It's
Just
okay,
like
though.
Back issues.
I think
It's
you mean
okay
until
though.
they hire the current writers. Please, just hire me!
They're not going to do that, but it's okay. We have a new Spider-Man now. Do you know who it is?
Spider-Boy?
It's Nightcrawler.
Wait, what?
Nightcrawler is Spider-Man now. Yes. With the
Why?
costume. Because Peter is Goblin, so now there needs... I don't know. We literally have... You can look it up. I posted it a couple days ago. They literally have Nightcrawler dressed in like a Spider-Man suit, and you can tell it's Nightcrawler, and he's now Spider-Man.
I'm gonna go to my website that I go to read my comics for free, and I'll check it out because I'm not giving Marvel any money. This is dumb. I go back and I read classic stuff like you said, script the back issues. I read a lot of Spidey. I was reading X-Men. You know, this stuff motivates me to work on my projects. You know, yes, Wokebusters is a lot of fun to work on, but every once in a while I need something to reignite my love of comics. So I'll pick up a classic book and get excited, and then there comes another 10 pages, no problem. But it's this new stuff that makes me so happy to just not be a modern fan. It's like, I don't want to say every decision is because the creators hate us, but I do feel like they are just trying to destroy institutions for the sake of destroying institutions. It's like, hey, you want to swerve, bro? I'm reading the chat. We're going to swerve you by making this, and that happen. And I don't think anybody... Like, we can't look at the sales figures anymore. Comic-Con was changed, right, Andrew?
Yes. It hasn't reported... What is it? It hasn't reported. It was either dollars or units that they stopped reporting. And remember, those numbers are strictly what's being shipped to the stores, not what's actually leaving the stores in customer hands. Marvel and DC don't care about that latter number because they already got their money. They got their money 2 hands ago. So the books go from DC and Marvel to their distributor, and then they go to the bookstores. So DC and Marvel could care piss all about how many books actually walk out of the stores. They already get their money, and the stores are basically getting pimped by DC and Marvel, and they have been for years.
Well, that's why my local comic shop, you know, relies on gaming.
Mm-hmm.
I never realized how big gaming was. See, we have a picture of Nightcrawler as Spider-Man right here.
Oh yeah,
It's
the
a
tail
five
gives it
issue.
away.
It's a 5-issue miniseries. He isn't
See-
the Spider-Man now.
Still
See,
weird.
this-
It's
This-
it's
right-
stupid
The fact that they're
regardless, and
even doing it.
anybody look, anybody that isn't Peter Parker, that includes Gwen Stacy, that includes Ben Reilly, that includes Kane, that includes literally everybody that is not Peter Parker is not Spider-Man. But Marvel is on this gimmicky thing, and they have been for a while, because Spider-Man is their best-selling book, even in down years and even on down months. Like, Spider-Man is still their best-selling book. And therefore, they're going to try to tie literally anything and everything into the Spider-Man brand as often as they possibly can, because that's what's more than likely going to at least catch people's eyes. And people are going to be like, oh, well, this is only a 5-issue miniseries. Sure, I'll buy all 5. Maybe there'll be a collector thing. It's how they scam.
It's desperation, because here's the other part too. Having interacted with a number of the younger writing team on film and television, and also meeting some various newer comic book writers in the big two, they don't believe that the decisions they're making and getting approved by with editorial are bad decisions. They're just delusional. And they're desperate to try and make an impact. And that's the other part too. Like, if they wanted to destroy the big two comics, whether it's Marvel or DC, there are a lot more easier and efficient ways to do it than the way they've been going right now. There really is. But clearly it's out of desperation, trying to be current in a market that is kind of faltering here and there, mainly because some people are aging out, and other parts being that some of the other competitive writers at the time that were coming in there were not really giving any real inventive ideas or experimenting with the characters in a way that was authentic to them previously. And people just kind of checked out. And as a result, those writers then checked out. And then when those companies needed desperately writers to come in and continue the series, the ongoing series, they got who they could for as cheap as they could. And we are, as customers who are sticking with the genre, we're suffering as a result of it.
You're not wrong.
I'll have to ask you more questions off air, Script. That's all I'll say.
Sure.
Because it's your insight's always appreciated here. So I always I would put it like this. I feel like I'm learning more when we talk each time. It gives me a better way to form the takes here on the channel. Because after a while, it's kind of just like, I don't know, redundant to complain about wokeness. I would never call Nightcrawler as Spider-Man woke or anything stupid like that. But there is one thing I do think they've been trying to do with Spidey in particular, and it's to sell you the identity thing that everybody can be Spider-Man. And I get it. His suit, his body is fully covered by the suit. But that kind of was enough. It's almost they've gone to the extra mile because they have to have a male and this and that. It's like, dude in a suit, good enough. We can all kind of get behind it. I think they watered down a lot of their characters by having 15 variants. Like, I thought it was crazy that there were multiple Earths in DC when I was growing up, but now I'm just like, how many Wolverines are there? How many Spideys? Like, this is stupid.
See,
Well, they're still not making Laura Kinney her X-23 again. She's still being called Wolverine, even though Wolverine has been brought back from the dead.
It's okay. Wolverine endorses it. They literally had him in a comic. She goes, and I'm Wolverine. And he goes, you tell him, sweetheart. Like, yes, because Wolverine said so. Everybody must accept it.
He doesn't call her sweetheart. He calls her X.
Or whatever he called her. I don't know what he called her. He called her like, you tell him, darling, or something. I don't know what he said.
That's not how Logan talks.
I can't.
X-23 used to be my favorite Marvel character. And for obvious reasons, Raven is my favorite DC character. But, so...
I could never have guessed that.
This
is new
I'm all
information.
surprised. But, no, I've read plenty of X-23 comics, and no, her taking up the mantle of Wolverine while he was dead worked. Once he was no longer dead, it doesn't work. She needs to go back to being X-23. She needs to go back to being her own character.
You mean Talon?
well, I mean, that's the aspect here. Now,
No,
here's
I think you're thinking her younger sister / clone Honey Badger.
you could do that, but here's the other thing. So let's say you are working for Marvel and you're an editorial of like, listen, we wanted to actually have fun with the idea of other characters being Spider-Man. Well, how do you best reconcile that? You do a investigator trying to discover who the identity of Spider-Man is, and every single clue he gets leads to a different person who then he imagines is inside the Spider-Man costume. We see the story from his perspective of who that is, but it plays on the dramatic irony because we as the audience know that's not really Spider-Man. That's how you can have female people being Spider-Man, or Nightcrawler being Spider-Man, or Miles Morales being Spider-Man, or all these things, because you are following the investigation and the clues of possibly fairly an incompetent detective who is just trying to uncover the identity of Spider-Man, and you get all these varying stories and things put together. You can cross it over with existing back issues of plots where he's picking up, some of the Spider-Man's greatest adventures and identifying, oh yeah, this guy who's about the right age was missing at a time when Spider-Man showed up at this point here on West 21st Street. And you play into that, because that way you're actually having fun with the idea of the imagination of who could be in the costume without actually corrupting the integrity of the character of Spider-Man, because you're playing into the foolish nature of this guy doesn't know and he's trying to figure it out. And then you just have the ongoing thing of he will never know.
Yeah,
so you can do it perpetually.
The problem is the current writers are not smart enough to do that.
No, they just do as they're told, as opposed to doing the one thing that writing is supposed to do, which is solve a problem. You present a conflict or problem for your main characters, and then you try to solve it. That's the adventure.
Well, now the adventure
is... they're not smart enough to do that either.
No, and the sales prove it. I mean, there's a thriving indie market. Look at Ripiverse, look at look at other places. If mainstream comics were as great as the websites like Bleeding Cool or Screen Rant or CBR, any of these places would tell you or make you believe, then, they would be doing bigger numbers and doing better stuff, and maybe the indies wouldn't have as much of a place. Well, indies will always have a place. I mean, look, in the 1980s when you had great Daredevil and Spider-Man and X-Men books coming out, you also had the TMNT out. So it's not like, indies you can't coincide with mainstream comics being good.
No, and Transformers and G.I. Joe are still a thing.
Oh, dude, yeah. I mean, some of those G.I. Joe books are great. I didn't get into the Transformers books as much because
nor I. I was a TMNT kid.
My first comic was Spidey, but then I got into Batman for a minute, and then I actually got out of comic books for many, many years. It wasn't until I was about 12 or 13, and the advent of that new Spider-Man movie with Tobey Maguire that I went, oh man, comics are cool. I need to learn everything I know or can about them, and so that was my journey. But I don't know. I feel like, and we've talked about this script and Andrew many at times, most of the mainstream stuff feels like they're just trying to get it adapted to go to Netflix or HBO Max or anything. Like, Mark Millar was guilty of that. And there was one big one he had. It was like a guy in a white suit with like a cape and a
Jupiter
mask.
Ascending, I think, right? Or, no, not Jupiter Ascending, but something with, it had a planet involved in the title.
Yeah, something like that. And that, like, they're like, soon to be a major motion picture, and nothing happened.
Well, I know
and
Jupiter
like,
Ascending was a movie.
That was a terrible movie, too.
It was a really bad one.
Wasn't there that book you recently read that said it was going to be made into a movie, and then apparently that movie never happened?
Yeah, I did read a series recently. It was an okay series until they, in the last book, decided to shoehorn in a character, not a non-binary character, which didn't even need to be in the thing. But it said like multiple times how it's like, oh, it's going to be made into a movie. It's going to be made into a movie. And like they recently released like a book of like short stories from the same universe. And it doesn't even mention that it's going to be a movie anymore. And it's like, I wonder why,
Script. It's funny that you mention that a lot of these books are written by people who don't actually care about these. They just want a Netflix deal. That's exactly right. And the great Chuck Dixon, who, by the way, is writing Alpha Core #1 over the Ripiverse, shameless plug, which I am one of the editors on and have now read the book about 25 times. He has mentioned before that current mainstream comics, and even honestly, even current, like the major indies, your Dark Horse, your IDW and Image and all of that, are primarily filled with tourists, not comic book lifers. All they care about is getting whatever their little script is adapted to a Netflix deal, a motion picture deal, whatever, so they can get that quick cash. And they would be super quick to sell off those assets. Like they'll take, like you were mentioning, Raven, that there will be a series that maybe gets announced that it's going to get made into a Netflix series or a movie adaptation, and it never actually happens. And that's because something looks like it might be interesting. A studio winds up auctioning it. They buy the rights to it, and that writer gets whatever, a quick, I don't know, 10 grand, we'll say, just to pull a number out there. And then they walk because like, oh, I just made $10,000. Okay, well now you got nothing else to your name, and your book also wasn't very good, and you probably signed a crappy contract, and you're not going to get residuals on that on the profits off of that product, and now you're up a creek because nobody else wants your stuff, and that movie isn't even happening.
Well, that comes
There's
into
just
the
zero
thing that happened
passion.
in 06. So in 06, studios were buying up comic book properties for the first time ad nauseum because of the recent success of Spider-Man. So if you had an original idea, it didn't matter if it was a comic book character or not, you would often be told by agencies and even producers saying, if you get it published as a comic book, well, we can buy the rights or license the rights from you for the comic book, and that gets you your show greenlit. In fact, Joseph Malazzi, who did Dark Matter, that's how he got his show picked up. He couldn't get it picked up normally. At least that's what I was hearing from normal producers when I brought it up. So he ended up publishing it as a comic book. He got it greenlit as a show. Show did a couple of seasons, has a pretty popular fan base, but that's how that got into fruition. This was basically fueled by the studio head saying, like, we don't want to bet on an untested IP, so why don't you produce it yourself in a very small medium market, and if it actually has any sales, we will then invest in actually adapting it live action. This caused a big chain reaction because what it ended up doing is it got screenwriters who were never interested in comic books trying to get into comic books so that they could get their stuff picked up for production. It was a manipulation to hurt an industry done by the studio heads for saying that we just don't want to take a risk anymore. And it's hurt really badly. Like, I was told some of the stuff that I want to do to be turned into a comic, and I thought, well, it's not for a comic. And number two, even in 2006, 7, and 8, it was very expensive for an individual to make a comic book. And so I'd be losing more money than that. And on top of that, I'd also started getting a reputation as a young writer with a pretty good mindset on contracts. I was never going to be selling an outright property I had made for myself. I could license it to you, but I'm retaining ownership of that thing. And if you don't like it, I'm going to find another way to get it out there.
Yeah, that's why I took a screenwriting class in college, because I always had this idea, if any of my stuff ever gets signed for movie adaptations, I need to be in charge of the script and everything else. Because I wanted to write the script myself. And now I actually get to do that. I'm so happy.
Well, you got to be careful how much you say.
I know. I'm just saying, I am now a screenwriter. I have fulfilled one of my dreams. Thank you, Josiah and Epicverse.
Cool.
That is something I still haven't done. Maybe I'll add it to my bucket list one of these days.
We'll make Stealing Solo.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, folks, another case of books have gone out. This weekend's toy video got a lot of people to buy Stealing Solo, so go to stealingsolo.com right now to get yourself a copy of the greatest Star Wars parody since Spaceballs. And I am working on Woke Busters all the time. I may or may not be putting a couple of touches on a page right now as they're shooting a monster out of a Thanksgiving dinner. But I digress. My point is, Andrew, yeah, that will be a lot of fun. I think I should just send it out to some people. Be like, I told this joke to a lot of my friends. I'd like to make Stealing Solo the movie with Kurt Russell or an actor that was up for the role of Han Solo but never got the role. But I'm afraid that would be, dude, Christopher Walken. That would be too meta, though, for a lot of people, don't you think? They'd be like, wait, it's about Han Solo, but it's Christopher Walken. I don't get it. Well, it might be too reminiscent of, what is that, Kings of New York or whatever, where they cut off his pinky after they kidnap him.
Oh, God.
It's a good movie. You should watch it.
Whatever works.
Speaking of working, I don't want to derail everything because we're having a good conversation, but you shared this with me, Andrew, and the audience likes to be kept up to date with the newest stuff. Folks, this is from the newest episode of Ahsoka. Is a Roman...
Somebody watched 300 recently, I guess, Dave Filoni.
I think somebody has been thinking too much about the Roman Empire.
I was just going to say, is that why people have been talking about that today?
No.
I think that was something Elon Musk mentioned.
I think it was even before Elon Musk, but this is... I have no words, actually. And those of you in the chat know I'm long-winded, so I'm not usually short on words. This is just...
Dumb.
This isn't a Star Wars aesthetic. And Ahsoka has had at least one consistent, decent thing about it. at least in the 2 episodes that I watched. I haven't actually watched since that one stream that we did, Jeff.
You're not missing out on anything.
Oh, no, I'm missing out on a great deal, and I'm perfectly fine with it from what I've seen. It's at least looked like Star Wars in terms of the aesthetic, up until whatever the hell I'm looking at right now.
You should see what they did with Ezra.
They made him fat?
They made him... Well, he's older, but...
I mean, he should be older.
He's interesting looking. I'll say that.
I mean, you guys have to realize we can't have any more chunky Star Wars characters. There was Lizzo last season, and that...
Yeah, we
That's
peaked.
no moon.
That exceeded their fat credit.
Anything else, they would never hit the same weight class.
She's still canceled, right?
I have no idea.
Haven't heard anything since. And in fact, last year when she ended up on Star Wars was more or less the first time I had ever heard of her.
Yeah, same.
My brother was very surprised because my brother listens to pop music. So
I
am a metalhead. I have music with taste.
who's your favorite band?
Don't ask me that. There are too many.
All right, just give me 2 bands you like that are in the metal genre.
Off the top of my head, Lord of the Lost and Two Shadows.
All right. Folks,
And the
if
Raven
anyone
Age.
Folks, if anyone in the chat has heard of those bands, press 1 right now. But how do I say this without trying to come off as cool? I have a friend that has worked on Star Wars TV shows and knows Dave Filoni and stuff like that. And it's always interesting to talk about this stuff with him. And I've heard other things about Dave Filoni from other sources as well, but they all corroborate the same thing. And it's, this guy is not the savior of Star Wars. He was never George Lucas's successor. He was always just, he knew what to say at the right time.
Lucas himself has said he was never, I guess for lack of a better term, grooming somebody to take the reins and be a successor. He was never doing that. That has been stated
Correct.
by Lucas. That is something that
Freddie
George
Prinze Jr. was the
Lucas-
first to kind of really try and support the idea that Filoni was the apprentice of George.
George Lucas's apprentice was not a title upon which was bequeathed by Lucas himself. That's not a thing.
Well, he's doing a bad job.
Yeah. He can't even stick to his own lore, let alone Lucas's.
Yeah, how many times has Ahsoka died?
Not enough, apparently.
It only should have been 1, and it should have stayed that way, is what it is.
You think?
I would have enjoyed
that
had
bothers
she
me
not-
so much.
No,
The one
she
thing
should
that
have
actually,
66.
no, that's not the what bothers me. The one thing that really bothers me
here
about
we go.
Ahsoka is that her head tails are too short.
All the
That is
tendrils?
the one thing that pisses me off the most.
I mean, her Leku, should be longer, but I think writing-wise is far more egregious.
Shock T live action Shock T
Oh,
in that deleted scene had
Yeah.
full length ones.
Shock T
Why
looked
can't Ahsoka?
fantastic. Shock T looked fantastic. And
Well,
I don't
George
That's
Lucas-
exactly my point.
Well, the thing with Lucas, like, I'll say all the controversial things that need to be said about Lucas or whatever, this, that, and the other, but, like, he was an artist underneath it all, so he understood that the artistry, where it stood. Everything out of Disney, it's like a spreadsheet. All right, we need to have these things, it can cost this much, blah, blah, blah. It just comes off as soulless or whatever. Like, I may not like everything out of the prequels, nor do I like a lot, most things out of the prequels. They're fine. But at least it was something else. It was something unique, different. There was artistry behind it. There was a world there. It may not have been as good as the old stuff, but it was still entertaining and worthwhile. And everything now, it's just like, I call it the VHS dilemma. It's just a copy of a copy of a copy. And as you guys know, after you go through and copy the tape a bunch of times, that quality degrades and it looks terrible. And that's what a lot of stuff today is. It's just the degraded VHS tape of our childhood memories. It's not even childhood memories at this point. Some people, we're talking about stuff that came out when you were adults, and it's just good entertainment that you like. I can't think of anything that hasn't been degraded a little bit on its own. Can you guys think of anything that's been completely above being, maybe outside of Back to the Future? Like, no other property has had that kind of safety net.
As far as being above reproach, basically.
Yeah. I mean, it's really hard to keep the integrity of Star Wars with the certain people that are in charge of it. And then, of course, you have Dave Filoni, who's like the salacious crumb to George Lucas's Luke Skywalker.
That's a comparison.
Well, I mean, what else can you do? The guy is genuinely, like, I know a number of people that have also worked with him and technically currently for him. And Dave Filoni loves Star Wars, but he has his own lens on it. And his own lens is basically he wishes he made up Star Wars, and he's doing everything he can to make it his own. And he is even borrowing, as we can see from a shot here, if not from like 300 or definitely Gladiator. And he's trying to just incorporate some of the fan things that he has from other films into Star Wars to try and put his own stamp on it. And he's antithetical to Star Wars, because one thing you can actually say with great assurance when it comes to George Lucas is that even though he was paying homage to a lot of things that he liked growing up, he was still experimenting and trying to do something new.
He was still trying to do his own thing. Yeah. And I guess to that point, Filoni is doing the same thing, but the problem is he's doing the same thing with somebody else's thing. And it's this mentality of, I think the most accurate way to put it is, Filoni is a fan of the idea of Star Wars. He's a fan of the setting of Star Wars. But if somebody is truly a fan of a thing, they love that thing as it is. They want to see it grow, sure. They want to see more stories be told. They want to see new characters introduced. But they still, at the end of the day, want it to be the thing. When I'm reading a, say, 100-issue run of The Flash, let's just make it appropriate, by a given writer, right? I want to see that character grow over the course of those 100 issues. I want to see different types of stories be told. I want to see different facets of that character be touched on in different ways. However, at the end of the day, by the end of every single issue, I want to be able to say, this was a Flash comic. This was a story about Barry Allen. This was a story about Wally West. Or maybe it was a story with those characters, but maybe it was a story that maybe this particular issue or a couple issues were focused on this other character that's adjacent to them. Whatever it is, I should still be able to confidently say, this is the Flash. We haven't been able to do that with Star Wars. And you can't really do that with much of anything that's Dave Filoni Star Wars. And I think, honestly, putting his name at the front of that, kind of as a prefix, is about as appropriate as it gets, because it's not just Star Wars. It's Dave Filoni's Star Wars. So it's his idea of what it should be. It's the stories he wants to tell. It's got piss all to do with what George Lucas or all of the EU writers that contributed to the lore over the last couple of decades made Star Wars to be. He wants it to be what he wants it to be. And it's completely disregarding literally everything that came before it. He's one of those people. It's not as blatant, or I would say even malicious, as somebody like Rian Johnson, where like he might be a good writer and a really good director, but the only way he can properly function is in his own damn sandbox, because if you put him in somebody else's, he's going to kick out all the sand like a dog that digs everywhere and then just put his own sand in there instead. That's Rian Johnson. Dave Filoni is like a different variation of that. I can't quite figure out how to put it, but it's not all too dissimilar to the way Rian Johnson does things.
Well, I would say Dave Filoni is kind of the inverse of Rian Johnson in the sense that he loves Star Wars so much he will pet it to death. and because here's the thing, that the most inventive thing that Dave Filoni has introduced into Star Wars is also its most detrimental, and that is that world between worlds. It's also not very original. So it's another dimension that allows you to go to any point in time in the Star Wars universe. Oh, great. You can now rewrite all of Star Wars history. Dave, geez, how derivative of you. That's it. You'd never get something like that from George Lucas. I mean, we haven't even gotten an inventive set piece or an inventive character dynamic from anything out of Filoni. The closest thing that we have ever gotten when it comes to something new and a new part of the world that still felt like Star Wars, which is what Jeff mentioned earlier with The Mandalorian. And that's Jon Favreau's idea that he lost.
Favreau,
it was
not Filoni.
swindled from him by Dave Filoni, because when Favreau pitched the idea to Kathleen Kennedy, she sent an email back to him and says, that's a great idea. You know what? In order to keep this in line with Star Wars continuity, you should bring Dave Filoni in to help you keep things on track. And you can
almost see in real time how it changes from Favreau's vision, which was this fun thing. Even it wasn't perfect.
Changes in the first episode.
Well, yes, but still, that first season was mostly a ton of fun for me.
Mm-hmm.
It certainly has its shortcomings. Obviously, it's not perfect, as I said, but that first season of Mandalorian and even a good chunk of the second season feel completely different from literally everything else that's come out of Disney Lucasfilm and the Disney Plus stuff. And you can see almost in real time where Dave Filoni is taking more and more creative control. And season 3 of Mando, like, it's unrecognizable compared to the first two, with like the exception of maybe one episode that I can think of.
There are set pieces. There are moments. It's, it feels like when you're a kid and you play with all your action figures together and you're like, oh man, this is the coolest thing ever. That's what watching a lot of this modernized geek culture stuff is. It's just like they took your favorite toys and put them together. And for some people, that's enough. And I'm not here to, question your intelligence. Please don't take it personally. But it's not enough for me. It's not enough for millions of other people out there. It's definitely not enough for the panel. We're all writers. We're all creative people, and sometimes just seeing the toys on screen isn't enough. And I think that's a problem with modern entertainment as a whole. It's very much flash, pizzazz, and not as much substance. You get that on TV. Let me say it like that. You get that on TV with long-form entertainment. But a lot of movies, it's just like, remember, I mean, this is directed to everybody, but I'm just saying script since you've worked on stuff. But remember how, like, it was a concern, like, we got to get this movie to be X amount of minutes long so we can get as many screenings in a day and stuff. Now It's like these movies are so long, they're not even worried about that, but they have less content than a movie that is intended to be watched as many times as possible, so they trim out stuff. It's like we're watching these long, epic 2.5 hour movies with like barely any kind of content in it. And I mean like story content, not like visual stuff. There are visuals there, but it's just, I don't know, it's just like a hollow 2.5 hours waste.
It's things that happen without connective tissue. It's basically like everybody's saying, man, I really love The Godfather Part 2, so I think my first-time film needs to be the length of The Godfather Part 2. And it's not. Like, Coppola had to earn to get to the length of the films for The Godfather Part 2 and Part 3. He did other films. He understood the concept of pacing story and the value of what you're showing the audience. Some of the new generation right here don't have that. And then on top of that, when you think that they've got to, I mean, listen, some of the shows that they have some phenomenal concepts and terrible handling of them. It's like they just dwell on things that are not really important. You don't need slow, long, wide shots. You don't need to see an actor thinking about something for 3 minutes straight. That's usually like a 5 to 6 second thing that you do because people get it. People get things a lot faster than you want to give them credit for. And I guess it's really hard to take, in some cases, the general audience seriously when you do see certain films that are just schlocky fun, like Transformers, always making like $1 billion at the box office or something of that nature. So you end up having an artificially low opinion of them. But that's their problem. It's not, and it becomes by and large our problem as an audience member. But the fact of the matter is that they're not exercising the discipline needed to basically tell you what matters in this story. Right now with Ahsoka, you could take the first 6-7 episodes that they have, and you could probably compact that down into a solid 45 minutes and not miss a beat at all. And it would still be boring, but you'd get through that boredom faster.
Yeah. Going on to that point, you mentioned messing up your toys. So basically they're all Sid from Toy Story 1?
Pretty much. But hopefully if they all end up like Sid from Toy Story 3 as garbage men. Because it's pretty much all they create.
Or maybe they're the collector from
human
Toy
being.
Story 2 who's trying to polish it up, but he doesn't want to do anything fun with them, so that's why they're always in the box and boring.
I I don't want to say the older I get, the more I become that guy, but it's just like I buy stuff to collect it. I don't really play with it because I don't play.
Do you
with
have any
anything,
idea
but-
how many memes there are of what adulthood actually is? It's not far off.
Whatever I'm doing, I guess I'm doing it right. I draw, I make YouTube videos, and collect stuff, and things are going good. So I guess I'm doing adulting right in some regards. but-
Adulting is not a word.
Behave, honey.
Adulting is not a word.
Would it be
No,
a
it's called
verb?
responsibility.
If it can have an active definition applied to it, it can be a word.
It's slang. It is not true English.
What about destrucity? Everybody that's a wrestling fan knows that word.
I'm not a wrestling fan.
Oh, look.
Jeff, it's okay.
It's going to be okay. This show
gonna
can
be
go
all right.
on.
It's gonna be all right.
Huh?
We'll make it work.
I know.
Huh?
It's not like the Rock
I'm
came back or
confused
anything.
now. What about me not being a wrestling fan is so detrimental?
Oh, man. You're just missing out on some epic storylines. See,
All of it is staged.
every
Not all of them.
No,
Every piece of
professional
entertainment
wrestling
is
is real. People are fake.
Are you kidding? All those fights look so fake.
All the people
remember-
online look fake.
That's true too.
everyone's a robot. It's just like what is it? Cyberpunk 2090 or what was that game? 2077? That was the Cyberpunk game?
Yeah.
Everyone's just like that.
I have about 620 hours in that game
Dude,
on Steam.
I thought my GTA San Andreas game time was impressive. At like
That's not even close to my longest houred game.
I'm approaching 400 hours in Hogwarts Legacy.
Is that as good as everyone
That's
says? I
pretty
know
nice.
you were
Yes!
playing it.
Oh my god, it's awesome. I've done a playthrough in each house. It's fun. I recently completed it in full. Got every achievement.
And I'm sure someone somewhere is mad about it because
Of course.
it'll be bad.
Oh, and Andrew, I'm sorry to tell you. It turns out Mary was right. I am a Ravenclaw after all.
I'm
See-
going to have my surprised face on right now.
Does
You
it look
can
anything like
picture
the
in your
gold
head.
face on screen?
It looks almost How did you know?
I know you. It's not like you're my co-host or anything.
Right, we kind of know a little bit.
Not to break your heart, but Harry Potter is what Harry Potter is to me is what pro wrestling is to you.
Fair enough.
Because I was the prime age, like I was in grade school when those books came out, and then the movie came out. And when everyone was off seeing the Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, I got a GameCube, and I didn't care about Harry Potter. I was like, Star Wars is still cool. This was 2001, but 4 Episode 2 came out, and honestly, until the new ones came out from Disney, I always ranked Episode 2 as the worst Star Wars movie. Like, I know people are like, oh, Hayden Christensen's back, and we should respect him. It's like, maybe you should have been a dick in the first place, but it doesn't magically make the movie better. Like, some of the dumb shit is still dumb. And that's script, I'm sure you're like this, Andrew, too. It's like, you give an opinion on a movie. And if, you get older and your views change, that's different. And I'm sure Raven and Master of TDS understands too. But sometimes bad stuff is bad stuff, and people just try to, I don't know, overlook the bad thing because something worse has come out. Like, 7, 8, and 9 are, 7, 8, 9, they're shit. But 2
I
is not
enjoyed
that
the
good of a
prequels.
movie.
I really enjoyed the prequels. Hell, I even liked Captain Marvel when it first came out.
Oh, God.
I was
Well.
in college. In my defense, I was in college.
What came out when I was in college in the MCU? The last movie to come out in the MCU when I was in college would have been Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
I had
That's a great
finished
movie.
college by like 5 years.
I was
before
also,
Iron Man
I
came
was
out.
also in college when The Force Awakens came out, and I cried both times when I saw Han Solo die.
I cried too all the way home till I made the YouTube video. I'm just joking. But
Like I said, I was in college, and this was before I had my eyes opened to the insanity I was being slowly indoctrinated into. I'm so glad I was able to escape it. There's actually a story behind how I escaped it.
Oh man, I was so happy because when I was in college, we weren't getting indoctrinated. They weren't doing it yet. At least
Oh no!
not
What happened was
university.
what snapped me out of it was the poetry teacher dissing Edgar Allan Poe in front of the class. I had
What?
brought him up as an example because we were discussing meter. I had brought up the Raven as an example. She even wrote out the first stanza on the board, and we all recited it together and whatever. And then she turns away from the board and says, "Yeah, everything Poe did was wrong anyway." I hated her from that day forward. And I almost failed, and she almost failed me in that class just because I kept on choosing dark poetry. She didn't like my quote-unquote
no one.
theme. She clearly could not tell I'm goth. So I basically, in my final project, called her out on it and said, it is completely illogical. This whole project that you gave us at the beginning of term was to choose poetry that we like. This kind of poetry is what I like. Therefore, it is completely illogical to take away points from my project just because I have what you call a theme. I ended up with a C. Instead of
I had a-
F. I still hate her. I can't stand that woman. Oy.
Well, I have a surprise for
I'm
you,
sure you'll be
Andrew.
okay.
Andrew, it's time to let her know. In our green room, folks, we have Raven's poetry teacher from college. Should we bring her in, guys?
Let's do it.
No.
So here's a good time to say, honey, they're being sarcastic. In case you
Okay, good.
I-
I don't get sarcasm, okay?
well, I was riffing on an old wrestling promo. This is your life, Rock. Remember that one, Andrew?
Yep, I do. This is your life. The segment that went on so freaking long, they were past the actual airtime of the damn show.
Yeah, they got in trouble, but then they got the ratings back, and they're like, "Well, fuck it, we're not going to say anything." It became the highest grossing or the highest rated segment of all time.
Mm-hmm. As it should.
Oh yeah, I mean it's The Rock and it's Mankind. What do you expect? But you're right though, Script, about not having to deal with that stuff in college. I was like riding the edge of that in 2013, and then the world changed 2015, 2016. It was a whole different beast. So I don't know.
That's when those college graduates started getting into the working system and the job market and started injecting really weak straw man ideas that for some reason people fell for, and it boggled the mind. It really boggled my mind.
Now, before we change our subject into the reboot and all this other stuff, I gotta ask you, Raven, how do you feel about the episode of The Simpsons that has the Raven as one of the tree houses of horror or terror?
I never really watched The Simpsons, so I wouldn't know.
Go back and check that one out if you get a chance.
My dad, growing up in an Orthodox Jewish household, television was rather restricted. There was even a classmate that I had. Every time I had a birthday party sleepover, we literally had to ask her parents' permission to let her watch a movie with us, and we had to let them know which movie we were choosing, and that was the only way she was allowed to come over. I kid you not.
Did you
Yeah,
ever make
people don't
up
get-
stuff? Did you ever tell them like, "Hey, we're just watching Toy Story 2," but you were actually watching?
No, we
Okay,
ended
guys.
we ended up going with Space Chimps.
That movie has Axel F in it, so that's okay. Now, you're going to get to experience something real quick because we have a thing here on the channel. When we get a massive super chat, we have to press a button and we stop everything we're doing. So you may not know about wrestling, but you definitely know about math. And after this moment in time, your life is never going to be the same again.
You know, they say all men are created equal, but you look at me and you look at Small Joe, and you can see that statement is not true. See, normally if you go one-on-one with another wrestler, you got a 50-50 chance of winning. But I'm a genetic freak, and I'm not normal. So you got a 25% at best at beating me. And then you add Kurt Angle to the mix, your chances of winning drastically go down. See, the three-way at sacrifice, you got a 33 and a third chance of winning. But I got a 66 and 2/3 chance of winning because Kurt Angle knows he can't beat me, and he's not even going to try. So, Samoa Joe, you take your 33 and a third chance minus my 25% chance, and you got an 8 and a third chance of winning at sacrifice. But then you take my 75% chance of winning, if we used to go one-on-one, and then add 66 and 2/3%, I got 141 and 2/3 chance of winning at sacrifice. See, Joe, the numbers don't lie, and they spell disaster for you at sacrifice.
So he's a space marine.
Yo, Scott Steiner,
Not quite.
his nickname is the Big Bad Booty Daddy. And he
Weird.
loves all of his freaks. And his theme song starts off with "Holler if you hear me." So Scott, we're all hearing you right now, and your math is impeccable. But Joseph Pianowicz says, "Jeff, I am dropping this on behalf of every wrestling fan in the chat. Can I get a hell yeah? Yeah. And it doesn't matter who you like. Bust out the Steiner math." Yeah, I'm sorry I gave you an LA Knight instead of a Stone Cold, but I just am feeling the LA Knight rush right now, man. So Joseph Pianowicz, thank you very much. But yeah, wrestling is theater for a certain demographic, and it is hilarious to watch.
And
It's
I
a
am
good
not
time
that
to get drunk and
demographic,
watch.
and I'm okay with that.
It's better than most theater.
Yeah, I tried to get into theater stuff. I don't get musicals. Like, people just bust out into song.
I
Like,
enjoy
I'm cool with-
musicals, but wrestling doesn't have any stupid shit like Rent.
A musical. There's nothing as amazing as a musical.
What is that from?
That's from Something Rotten. With song and dance and sweet romance and happy endings happening by happenstance. Oohs, ahs, big applause and a standing ovation. The future is bright if you could just write a musical. Sorry, I really love that play.
That's cool. You know what my brain went to when you were singing that? Has anyone here seen Team America World Police?
Yep.
Nope.
Remember the opening at the play?
Yes.
That's just the first thing that popped in. I'm just because, like, besides Only Murders in the Building, which is all about a play this season, most of the stuff I watch doesn't really revolve around the theater. But scripts.
Death, rattle, razzle, daddle. Razzle, dazzle.
Did you watch the newest episode yet?
No, I'm watching it tomorrow morning.
All right, I won't. This isn't a spoiler, but the Pickwick Triplet song is so catchy. Folks, if you want a good show to watch, Only Murders in the Building is on Hulu. I will highly recommend it. Script, you recommend it as well, correct?
I do recommend that. And oddly enough, I also, speaking on the wrestling theme, I also recommend Heels, which is surprisingly better written than I'd give it credit for.
Oh, it's Stephen Amell?
Yeah, it's Stephen
And,
Amell.
I've heard it's quite solid.
Alexander Ludwig.
Yes, and it's also got Blake Masters as one of the creative consultants on the show as well. He's a little bit. Well,
Oh,
some people
hail
say he's
Bjorn
racist.
Ironside!
But yeah, it's the guy who wrote Multiverse of Madness. This is his baby, and when he doesn't have Disney over his shoulder, he actually tries to do something really cool and fun. And yeah, it's season 2 finale premiered I think last week, and it has a very good ending. And
Well,
it would be a shame if they didn't get a third season. I would say that.
Then I'm going to go back and watch it now that the second season has ended, because once I get into a show, I hate to start getting into something and then you're like midway through the new season and then you got to wait each and every week. It's like, I love Only Murders in the Building, but I got into it like just a few weeks ago now. And I was like, oh, I'm hooked on the show. What's next? I got to keep waiting each and every week. So I think it's a good time to jump in, especially when you're at the end of a season finale. But dude, how many great shows have ended on a cliffhanger and just you never get that episode? Like for me, My Name is Earl's that #1 show that just, this is what it's going to be, and then never again.
That's happened quite a bit, but I'm going to rewind just a moment because this is hysterical, and I totally vibed with what you were just saying about like jumping in on a show when it's like already X of the way through and whatnot. So early college, I had a girlfriend who told me that there was this character in this show whose personality reminded her of me. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, and she's like, I think it's a fun show. You should check it out. All right, I'll check it out. What's the show? Smallville. Okay. I know of the show. I've just never actually watched the show. When does this character show up? Oh, season 5. And I'm like, I'm about to freaking binge watch 4 seasons of a fucking show I had no plans of actually watching right now. Okay, fine. We're doing this.
My dad only
and I
let
wound
me
up
watch
doing that.
Sorry, my dad only ever let me watch the pilot episode of Smallville.
I own the entire thing on DVD now.
I guess
And
you liked it.
I did enjoy it. I will say, however, people have some, let's say, historical revisionism in their memory banks when it comes to that show, because that show is actually where a lot of the CW nonsense that we complain about today kind of started.
Yes, it is.
Lana Lang is traditionally a redheaded character. Kristen Crick is not, and she's only really a serviceable actress at that. So it's like they don't even have it was the best person for the job excuse. She's not a very good actor.
No. At the time, she was a popular Canadian actress, and she was also doing 2 other shows while making Smallville.
Yeah, and I do like Tom Welling as Clark. I wish that they had written him a little bit differently, but that show really shined because of Michael Rosenbaum as Lex. He was the bright star of that show. And John Snyder as Jonathan Kent, and Martha. Annette O'Toole as Martha. They were perfect. And then John
Glover as
Lionel Luthor. Those castings were phenomenal. Absolutely outstanding.
Which DC show has John Cryer playing Lex Luthor? Is that The Flash?
Supergirl.
Okay.
That's weird.
I could not get past the first episode of that show. It was so boring.
I actually watched and enjoyed the first season of that show. To a degree, at least. There was just the right amount of camp for it, and I'm a big Supergirl fan. Supergirl is my second favorite DC character. However, it did need to be stronger. But as like a pilot season, I was like, okay, if you build off of this, there's actually something to be had here. And then what happened? It got moved to the CW, and
it went downhill from there.
It went instead of it being like, okay, this is all right. This has some really fun moments and some could probably throw that out moments. It went to just like, okay, I could throw out this entire series, which made me sad because Melissa Benoist is cute as shit, and she can absolutely play the character of Kara when it's written well.
Has the CW ever made anything better?
The first few seasons of Supernatural.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
The first half of Supernatural. And then there was my opinion, it really started going downhill towards season 14, season 13, but especially their 200 episode special for the fans, in which they actually have 2 lesbians play in a stage play of Supernatural playing Dean and Castiel, and they give the fans their hint at that they acknowledge Castiel.
I haven't made it that far in the show. I liked Supernatural. I still do. I need to catch up and finish it, but
don't bother finishing it. They actually make Destiel a thing by the end. In the series finale, they made Destiel a thing.
They reference it from what I'm told, but actually, there is a show on the CW that I saw that I actually quite liked, and nobody talks about it anymore. But I think it was really good. It got canceled after 1 season. Does anybody remember The Secret Circle?
No.
Who's
Wow.
It is quite good. It was quite good. It was adapted, I think, off of some books. They did a great job adapting it. It actually was quite cool. It had some interesting stakes. It had some interesting twists. Like, we're talking demons, stuff like that. It was really good. And they canceled it after 1 season. I believe the reason they said it was because they said it was too much money to shoot, because they literally had to, I don't know where they were shooting it. And we know, but CW shows, for the most part, one of the things that are their weaknesses is that they don't have a huge budget, at least for some of them. And so you can tell that it's tacky or it's made whatever. And that's one of the reasons that it makes a problem. But The Secret Circle was really good, and it was shot well, and you didn't see the same green screens. It was really good, and I really wish they continued it, because in CW style they left the show off on a cliffhanger, and it's never gotten picked up since then, because it's obviously the CW and they just chose not to finish it. But I actually thought it was really good for what it was.
I have never heard of it.
I started it, never finished it. I need to finish it.
Well, the Miles Miller and Al Goth, yeah, they are kind of the they're, I would call, generation 2 of the problems we've had. There was stuff that was peppered out in the mid 90s. In fact, if you ever see the original pilot for Mantis with Gina Torres,
wow,
there's some stuff in there that you could say is very woke. And it did not take off. In fact, they had to rewrite the show from the second episode on. But yeah, Algo and Goff and Miles Miller are like the prototypicals. They're the idea that they decided, hey, let's take Dawson's Creek and do it with superheroes. And it was a gimmick that could work, but they dragged it out too much. And unfortunately, some of the people that they brought in to their show took that formula and made it a crutch. And that one of those people was Greg Berlanti. And he had been fighting to get a Flash TV show for a number of years. I've read 2 versions of his feature film script for The Flash, which are atrocious. And he repurposes them for the pilot. And it's a miracle that he managed to get at least some quality out of that pilot, because he had a couple other writers come in and rewrite it for him. And then he's also the guy who wrote Green Lantern. And Martin Campbell, the guy who revived James Bond twice for theaters, couldn't fix that movie because that's how bad the script was. And neither could Ryan Reynolds, who was charming enough to actually make people think, yeah, maybe he could do a good Hal Jordan. Could not save that film.
I actually adore that movie.
Oh, do you want to know a movie
as
so
a guilty pleasure? It is horrible. I acknowledge that it is horrible. However, Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively make that movie just a ton of fun for me. And it's probably because of how good their chemistry is. And I do, as a big Hal Jordan fan, I see it. And I'm just like, at the end, every single time, once the credits start rolling, I'm like, man, if we got somebody who had a freaking clue to write this, we could have had an amazing movie. Part of it on the visual side was like, that was at the wrong period of time to do a Green Lantern movie, because while I would want the Green Lantern suit to have a CGI like touch up to it, I wouldn't want the whole thing to be completely CGI, even with what we're actually capable of today, not what Disney's doing, what we're capable of. We're capable of better. The time that movie came out, it was not quite there.
Well,
so it's like,
one of the big
it makes sense
why.
for it to look like it's made of energy, like it's a construct itself.
Yeah, it does.
But the tech just wasn't there.
Well, it wasn't even just the tech.
What's one of a million problems with that movie?
I got to swing by one of the Warner Brothers set where they were shooting it, and I saw Ryan Reynolds in his gray ski scoot, because he didn't have a green one.
Say that 3 times fast.
Yeah. But what I was hearing from the murmurs, because I wasn't able to get very close, because again, it was a closed off set. But what I was hearing from the murmurs is that while Martin Campbell was directing this, Greg Berlanti already got the go ahead to start writing the sequel, and he and Jeff Johns and co were not around to do what they're supposed to do with Martin Campbell, which is make sure that they're getting the narrative correctly with the script. And while the script was atrocious anyways, the biggest red flag with regards to a movie being bad, especially if you're doing one that's an original adaptation of a character, so there's an original story, but it's an existing character. It's not the same as, say, Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter. This is where they don't actually have the story plotted out to the end. They don't have the character arcs plotted out to the end. All those things are still in development. The moment you start writing a sequel to that before the audience has spoken or whether or not the direction you're going is good is the moment your film is doomed. And it's
unless you are 1 in a million lucky.
Well, I mean, it hasn't even happened yet because like Lord of the Rings was already plotted out. They're just going right off the book and adapting it from the book. So they knew where they were going. They knew
that certainly didn't happen with Aragon.
Well, it didn't happen with a lot of the characters, actually.
No, but Aragon apparently was so bad that movie both started and ended the director's career.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Aragorn from Lord of the Rings. No, Aragon, the freaking Christopher Paolini books. Yeah, no, that movie was the soul saving grace of that.
I actually really liked it as a kid, but
I
looking
liked the
back
first
on
two
it, I can
books.
see how much it sucked.
The
No, I'm
first,
talking about the movie. I enjoyed
the
the
movie?
movie when I was younger.
Oh well, I'm sorry.
You were
The
so you were
soul-saving
person
grace of that
saw it.
was Jeremy Irons, because Jeremy Irons is god tier,
Well, Jeremy Irons was also in Dungeons and Dragons a few years earlier than that, and
and he's still god tier, despite both of those trash movies, plus the Snyderverse stuff being wrapped up in his resume.
I may or may not have seen the original D&D movie in theaters. Just putting that.
That
out
sounds like an
Oh,
admission
wow.
there,
Must
Jeff.
have been a very lonely night.
there. Oh,
You might be
I was
one of
in grade
15
school.
people.
I think my mom took me to go see that movie. It's kind of a weird choice, but it is what it is. All I remember is that Marlon Wayans was in that movie. And then I
Marlon
never
Wayans
watched
and
it
Justin
again.
Whalen, the original, well, not the original, but the '90s Jimmy Olsen.
Oh yeah, from Lois and Clark.
Yep, the one who was brought in because they thought, what's his name, Michael Landis looked way too much like Dean Cain because they both had dark hair. Like that's it.
I know Michael Whalen from Child's Play 3. That's where I know
Yeah.
him from. I had
Child's
to look him
Play.
up because I'm like, that hair. He's in something else I know.
He was good in Child's Play.
Yeah,
Because he was in the military school, right? And,
Yep. That's the third one. The kid that's in the first two. I don't remember the actor's name or the character's name, but he goes to horror cons and tries to pick up women. He's like, yeah, I was the boy from Child's Play. You want to come have a drink with me? I'm just like, wow. I've watched that shit. Like, it's funny because a horror con, I know people think, why don't you do Comic Cons? Well, I'm doing one this weekend. Come to the Cincinnati Comic Expo, folks. Get a copy of Stealing Solo signed, or maybe a piece of art. Who knows? I'm taking some stuff to draw. But my point is, like, you go to these horror cons and you can hang out with the celebrities at these bars and drink with them and stuff. But you can also see them be real people. And that dude always is trying to, like, pick up women. I was in Child's Play. It's like, good for you, man. Maybe it'll work one of these. I'm sure it works, but like he tries hard. Yes,
gotta be in
Andy.
his
Yes.
40s right now, right?
Yeah, he's got to be because I'm 34, and that movie came out the year I was born, so he's got to be close to it.
Yeah, he has to be at least 40 or 41 or something of that. Why are you doing that at 41?
Alex Vincent, I think, is his name.
It's
Yeah.
weird, man. It's just weird.
Well, I mean, I guess that's kind of all he has. I mean, he was in Child's Play, and he's still in. He's still in Child's Play. He's on the TV shows and shit. So
That's on the CW too now, isn't it?
yeah, or is
It's
it
on Hulu.
Sci-Fi?
I don't know.
Wait,
There
that's
are too many channels to count.
It's on Peacock, so it's got to be on.
So that's through Comcast, NBC, and them. Yeah.
I can't keep track of all the channels and all the streaming
Neither can
services. I currently pay for one streaming service, and it's my Crunchyroll account, and I hardly ever even use that.
Is Dragon Ball Z
Crunchyroll
on
and
that?
High Dive. That's
Oh, yeah,
the only
I'll-
ones we pay for.
all of the Dragon Ball franchise series are on there. Yeah,
Dragon Ball Z with the American audio.
I'll give you my
and
login,
music as
Jeff.
well.
Like if you I'll just fucking shoot you my login for that.
Because I'm just gonna have a couple drinks and stay up really late one night and just watch Dragon Ball Z.
Hell yeah.
Folks, maybe I'll do a live stream of me not sober going, I just watched the Saiyan saga. Let's talk about it.
Dude, you let me know. I'll freaking join you for that shit.
Here's an episode where Goku charges his what is it, the soul beam for 22 minutes.
Let's
I
see,
don't
you're
even
either
wa- I'm
referring
not
to
even
the
a Dragon
Kamehameha
Ball fan,
wave.
and I'm not even a Dragon Ball fan, and I know that.
Do you know what Kamehameha means?
No, but I do know that it's a condensed plasma beam.
More or less. But it's got a really funny actual definition of what it is. It means turtle destruction wave.
Why turtle?
Because Yoshi wears a turtle shell.
Yes, actually. That is correct.
I never really understood the plot of Dragon Ball, to be honest.
Well,
Collect balls.
there are
make a
two
wish.
answers, or rather two appropriate responses to that. One is the normie response, and that's because Akira Toriyama didn't understand the plot either. The actual like hardcore fan response, and I can only speak to this because, and I don't even consider myself a hardcore fan, even though I grew up watching literally every episode of Dragon Ball Z, and Dragon Ball GT. I own the complete series on DVD. However, I still consider myself a normie next to guys like Danny of Geekdom 101, who's like the Dragon Ball guy on YouTube, and he's a YouTube friend of mine, really good guy. Guys like him would tell you that Akira Toriyama was actually, if you look into it, drawing heavily on Journey to the West. But that requires like really going into the weeds, which ain't nobody got time for that right now.
No. Now is not the time for that. What show would be, or what show is it appropriate to get into the weeds for? Not Ahsoka, because not enough happens.
No, nothing happens.
Have weeds.
Well, there's lots of staring.
We could talk about the MCU reboot, potentially.
I didn't even hear about that. What's the deal with that?
All right, let me pull up some information. Now, obviously, we have to take all of this stuff with a grain of salt, because when news is slow, people make shit up. But a new rumor claims that Marvel Studios' upcoming Secret Wars will effectively soft reboot the MCU by merging the various universes and timelines into a new one. The latest rumor comes from Twitter, and it sounds like Earth 616 will no longer exist after Secret Wars. Now, let's stop for a quick second. Earth 616 is not where the MCU takes place. It's like a weird alternate timeline, right?
No, actually. The Multiverse of Madness, if I remember correctly,
defines
labeled the MCU universe as Earth 616, which was actually probably the most egregious and insulting thing that they could have done. Because that means that Tom Holland, not Peter Parker, not Spider-Man, is supposed to be 616, Peter.
Yeah, but I think they've been trying to retcon that by calling it Earth like 199999 or something, but I don't think they've
they gave it a name in Far From Home. So I don't remember, honestly.
I don't mean to like put myself on a platform, but I say it like this is, if you can get me confused about this shit, then you've completely lost it. Because it's like, I'm keyed into all of this stuff. I was there day one, want to talk about this, excited for it, blah, blah, blah. But it's just too much. It's like I don't know what they're trying to do anymore with this.
Does anyone?
No, I think that's a better response. Does anyone know?
So I actually know a little bit of information about the Ironheart ship, if anybody's interested. I got handed a little bit of information about that.
I'm interested in your information. I have no interest in ever watching the show, but I'd love to hear what you have to say.
Oh, so I hate Ironheart. People know that. People are mad at me about that, but whatever. Long story short, I don't know if you've heard what they said about the Echo show, that they've been trying to not release it, but they're contractually obligated to. So that's why they're going to dump it all on the streaming service at once, is because they know it's bad. What I've heard about Ironheart, which is interesting, there was actually Ironheart footage shown. It was shown at one of the events. I forget which one. I think it was D23. They actually showed a trailer for Ironheart, and I haven't been able to find it anywhere. I've asked people, but no one's been able to get it for me, because apparently they were very, very careful not to let people record it, which is interesting because we usually get leaks or whatever, and if there's a trailer for it out there, why are we not getting it? Basically, what I've been told, and this is, again, I can't confirm this for certain, but what I've been told is it's not very good. Like, it's really not a very good show. Like, it's the same as Echo, but unlike Echo, they're not exactly certain if they can get away with not releasing it. What their plan is currently, from what I've been told, is that they're planning to drop it around the Armor Wars. They're planning to make Armor Wars into a movie, and they're planning to drop Ironheart like around that time. But I've heard that it's not very good, and they've shelved it for a reason, because they really do not want to release it without like something else coming along the pipeline. Because if they released it now, for example, because it's fully filmed and ready to go, it's sitting on a shelf. If they were to release it now, they don't have anything coming down the pipeline to distract from it. That's what they did, for example, with, I forget, they did a thing with Ms. Marvel. They released it around the same time as Obi-Wan. I think that was what they did with it. But it was like the lowest viewed MCU show that we have. And they put it out on the same time as Obi-Wan because it kind of distracted from it. They don't have anything to distract from it. So they've kind of shelved it to wait for a distraction. So they can kind of be like, oh yeah, here's a movie. Oh, by the way, here's the show. And I've heard, I know for a fact that they're going to have the hood in it. And there's no footage of this, but I've been told, I know Mephisto's going to be in it. I've been told that it's going to be Sacha Baron Cohen. That's what I've been told.
In Star Wars? Or, sorry, in Marvel?
Yeah. That he's going to be Mephisto.
What would Mephisto have to do with Ironheart?
Basically, they're going to have the Hood wants to steal Stark technology. And he's going to make a deal with Mephisto so that he gets his hood with the special powers. And he's going to use that to steal Stark technology, and only Ironheart can save the day because Tony dead.
That sounds terrible. Like,
yeah, that's why they haven't released it. And I've also been told, and again, this is completely a rumor. I do not have any concrete evidence with this, but it would not surprise me if it was true. One of the things that Ironheart's comic is known for is at a certain point Tony dies, and he sends her an AI version of himself that she puts into her suit. So there's an AI Tony Stark that walks around with her and does things. It would not surprise me if they've included that in the show, because they really need something to draw people's attention for that show. So if they had AI Robert Downey Jr. appear, it would mean they were super desperate. But I could see it happening. So,
well, speaking of Ironheart, you can find Ironheart at every Ollie store across America. You can find all the Black Panther stuff.
You can find 85 of her.
Yeah. Do you want 85 Ironhearts? No.
No,
dude,
I don't want one. I don't want half
only,
of them.
Only if we're allowed to burn them. In a nice large bonfire.
Once you buy it from the store, it's yours to do whatever you want. I just don't want to spend my money to melt the plastic figures, but it would make for a fun video. Andrew, they have like 30 Vice Admiral Holdos at this one store. And I
saw your most recent video with when you were at that Ollie's. I was cracking the hell up and not even a little bit surprised.
No. Well, I mean, this is what I'm kind of working on as a response to the WDW Pro video, but this is what happens when you try to cater to an audience that doesn't want your product. That's Star Wars. That's, like, we've said this before. You could study on an academic level the business mismanagement of Star Wars under Disney, because it's like square peg round hole. They just keep forcing and forcing and forcing, and eventually they broke the whole damn thing. But it's like, if these things were great or successful, everyone in America would have had one in their home. Oh, but the pandemic. Bullshit. Those Holdo figures came out in 2018. Don't give me that whole excuse. Well, distribution was messed up. No, it wasn't. Nobody bought these. You talk about sitting on a shelf, MasterofTDS. Somewhere in a warehouse for 5 years, these things sat on a shelf and nobody wanted them. And now they sit on a shelf again. And it's just really a representation of all of the, mismanagement of entertainment across the board. You can't guilt fans. You can't make fans, force fans into doing stuff. It's just, I don't know. It's a response that I like to hear. We'll put it like that, or like to see. Excuse me.
It's funny. You can, kind of to your point, you can trick fans into watching a series on Disney Plus to a degree. You can trick fans to going once to the movie theaters, not multiple times in terms of, at least for the same project. But what you can't do, not nearly as easily anyway, is trick them into buying merch for said same TV series or movie. The merch is a real measure of whether or not there's a legitimate interest in your product, whether or not there's a legitimate interest by fans, people who are willing to support you with their dollar. We say this all the time. Movies are a normie medium. They're incredibly accessible. Same with TV series. Disney Plus, what is it? 13, 14 bucks a month for the subscription, whatever the heck it is. That's still, all things considered, cheap for most incomes. I think most people can afford and justify that, even if they seldom actually utilize it. But that's easy. Anybody can do that. And that's because there's a million other options on there as well. You know, families could have a Disney Plus subscription, not because they're a bunch of Star Wars fans, but because it has all the classic Disney animated films on there, or their live action films, or which are crap mostly, or like their 3D animated stuff, right? So you can justify that expense. But how much the merch moves is what is really going to be a measure of how well your property is doing. Are people buying Star Wars merch? Kind of. What Star Wars merch? What Star Wars merch are they buying? Well, they're buying the Black Series stuff. Well, which Black Series stuff? Oh, well, they're buying like the classic characters. Okay. Is anybody buying the sequel stuff? No, that's still chilling at Ollie's. when I was last at GameStop, when I left GameStop, we'll put it that way. That was in 2021 or 2020? I forget which. One of the two. I'm pretty sure it was early 2021. There were still Rey figures in our clearance section because they wouldn't move because nobody freaking wanted them. And that's how it generally was everywhere. Because the people who profess to be fans of the sequels, those people who profess to be Star Wars fans aren't actually Star Wars fans. They're normies. They're general audiences. They don't know squat or diddly or jack about Star Wars. And so they'll go and see the sequel films and they'll praise it to the high heavens until they're purple in the face, but they're not going to go buy a t-shirt, let alone a freaking $25 action figure that's 6 inches tall. It's just not going to happen. And so all of that sequel crap is sitting on shelves. And that's really how it's been with Disney Star Wars from jump. Like, there was maybe a minor spike in the very beginning with Force Awakens, and then people caught on quickly, or at least fans that are the type of fans that buy merch caught on, right? We were like, yeah, I want characters on my shelf that are interesting in the movies. You've given me none of that, so I'm not going to buy the figures. Or if I'm going to, I'm going to buy some of the older ones. Like when they released, you know, some of the video game characters. I bought all of the Knights of the Old Republic stuff. I bought all of the Jedi Fallen Order stuff. You know, I've got those. And honestly, the Jedi Fallen Order, Jedi Survivor, and whatever the hell the third entry winds up being called, it's literally the only interesting thing coming out of Star Wars for me. But the merch is the measure.
Yeah,
a good example. Made his money.
A good example of that is the new. We got the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie, and it didn't do that great in theaters, but it moved merch like a lot. So it did well because the merch sold. You know, it's a good indication.
Merchandising.
That's what I always think of too, Spaceballs. But you are right, Master of TDS. Like, Turtles. You see, the Turtles do it right compared to Star Wars, where you can go into Walmart right now. You can find re-releases of the Turtles that have the shells that open up and hold their weapons. They have re-released the ones that shoot the pizza out of their chest, the movie figures from the 90s. Then they have new versions of all this stuff. I mean, that and Transformers really have stuck around in an impressive way. And He-Man, too. It's like those three properties just keep doing the right stuff. But for the main part, they have new versions that don't piss off old fans. New Disney stuff has new versions that piss off old fans, and those old fans aren't dropping money on spaceships and action figures and all this other crap. So,
and if I want a lightsaber, I'm going to go through Ultra Sabers and spend like $450 instead of giving Disney $150 for their crappy ass Black Series Force FX lightsabers.
I mean, I
that
don't
out there.
disagree.
I had a bad experience. I pre-ordered the Revan one, and it was broken right out of the box. And holding it in my hand, it felt flimsy. I was like, nah. Like I'm gonna build Revan's lightsaber on Ultra Sabers and give them my money instead.
You got ripped off.
Well, it worked out.
Thankfully, I was able to return it right away, so it wasn't the end of the world.
I just want Luke Skywalker's lightsaber from Return of the Jedi. That'll make me pretty.
I have a really, really, really. I don't even know how old this is. I have a really old version of Luke Skywalker's lightsaber, and it's like one of the early, like
the mid-90s toy lightsaber.
It's you know how the new lightsabers we have now, they can completely retract into the hilt. This one can't.
Those ones.
Yeah, it can almost completely retract, but it has like a bit of green sticking out of it. You know,
I had that one as well. I loved that toy.
I've got the Darth Vader version of that right behind me with the red. It's like 6 or 7 inches. It sticks out, and then the rest of it unfolds.
I have the Obi-Wan of that from Episode 1 in storage.
I just had a generic purple lightsaber because I wanted the purple one. Otherwise, I always use the red one because I prefer the Sith.
I mean, they look great. I like to watch the red ones on screen because there's just something that's more, I don't know, I don't want to say engaging, that's the wrong word, but script that those 90s ones, me and my buddy, he had Vader, I had Luke, and we used to go to his grandpa's basement and lightsaber duel in the dark and like walk up the stairs, and we thought we were in Star Wars. And then you look back at these things, you're like, this doesn't even look that good. And then you hear the sound effect, you're like, man, I thought this was the real deal back in the day.
My brothers and I, we each had our own colored lightsaber. And back then, we also, in the winter, we also would have different matching pajamas from Gap Kids, I think it was. And I was in the purple. One of my brothers was in the green, and the other was in the blue. And what we did was we literally picked the lightsabers that were the same color as our pajamas, and based our whole aesthetic of Jedi characters off of that. It was fun.
Star Wars used to be fun. It's supposed to be fun. And the reason I've been covering a little more of it is I've just seen it so prominently featured on social media again for the first time in a while. And I just want to put this out there. It's not the fans, Disney, that are the problem. It's not the fans that are ruining it, websites. It's just bad content. Like, I'll get off my soapbox.
They're not doing anything experimental with it. They're not doing anything with Star Wars other than saying it's Star Wars.
Well, they don't even need to do anything experimental. That would be obviously if they were doing interesting experimental things that worked within the confines of that universe, that would be one thing. But honestly, I would even take them just leaving it the hell alone and doing what had already worked and stuck to that formula. At the very least, the content would be decent. But that's not what we're getting. That's not what Disney has produced. Instead, they're like, oh, we're going to kind of do something different, but also give you basically a inferior rewrite of A New Hope for our first movie. And then we're just going to completely throw the whole bitch out the window, which is what they did for the second movie. And it's just Star Wars. I made this point when I did a video with WDW Pro, friend of the channel here, last week. Yeah, I think it was last week, about just the financial state of Disney, specifically with regards to their Lucasfilm projects. I recommend you guys checking out that video on his channel. Really interesting stuff. There's a lot of in the weeds financials that we went into. But a thing that I brought up, it was something honestly a lot of people have brought up, is Star Wars should have been one of the easiest properties to just remain profitable in the world. Just look at the formula that was implemented prior, that did gangbusters, hit a lot of money, not just at the box office, but also in the merch, which is where your money's really at. And just replicate that. And instead of sticking to even some semblance of a script, they threw the whole thing out. And what did they throw out along with it? Their profits. Which is why we used to joke a few years ago how Solo lost money. Y'all remember that?
Milos are weird.
The actual fact is Star Wars lost money. Lucasfilm, Disney is on net in the red, specifically with Star Wars.
Yeah, I've got to go back and watch Valiant's video, because in my video for tomorrow, I'm talking about some of the stuff that Script covered. And so, the sales figures of the figures and the merchandise, because, well, we documented it all as it died. But I need to go back and check out his numbers, because it's so interesting that the truth comes out about all of this stuff after everybody kind of walks away, and wants to paint certain people in a certain way. But it's like, the thing we all were is not racists or bigots. It's we were all right. We knew something was off. When something you care about is just not done the right way. And it could be, and the thing is, I use Star Wars as kind of just a coverall for what entertainment or what properties or whatever you out in the chat feel is important to you, or whatever your passion is. It might be collecting, it might be hunting, it might be whatever. But whenever your most passionate things become, I don't want to say sanitized, but when they're changed by people who don't get it, y'all have the same feeling. So just understand, when I bring up Star Wars, it's not that I'm actually only concerned with Star Wars. It's about entertainment as a whole, because I believe entertainment is the glue that binds us all together. It's not the Force, sorry, but it's entertainment, because it all creates a shared experience. And like the 5 of us here on the show tonight, we don't know each other, but we are all bonded through our love of entertainment. There's crossover. It's like entertainment is a big Venn diagram, and everybody's a part of that Venn diagram, and where you cross over with other people is how you make those connections and build lifelong friendships, find other interests. And so when it kind of sucks, that takes out that social element, which prevents people from bonding, and it, to me, creates a bigger problem. So overall, that's my big issue, and that's my stance with the channel is, entertainment needs to bring us together, not tear us apart. And there's so many eye-rolling things. So I'm just grateful that so many of us can come together to lament the bad entertainment, because it's a fun thing to do as well as a group thing. But is there anything else you guys want to say about any of the Star Wars or Marvel stuff? I know we really rushed past the Marvel reboot, but I don't think it's possible. I firmly believe that they have blown their load with Endgame. Everything else is just...
People are checked out.
Yep.
They've had drastically diminishing returns on just about every single project since, with very few exceptions. Like, people bought into the jangling keys for No Way Home long enough to see Toby and Andrew back on the screen. And to be fair, that third act is like, all right, well, I guess that was worth the price of admission. But apart from that, Phases 4 and 5 have been loser stuff. It's been garbage, worthless. Throw it away. This is an absolute waste of time, waste of money, waste of lack of imagination. Like, well, if you had half...
They burned through so many established Marvel stories from the books.
They burned through the characters and the stories, all of it.
Can lack of imagination even be wasted?
Yes. Yeah. I think the MCU even proved that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, listen...
That's just sad.
The simplest way that you want to maintain the integrity of the success that you actually have and kind of softly dismiss the failure comes through the very problem that started this all with the multiverse, which is you find a plausible way, be it with Fantastic Four or maybe something else, where you take the MCU to the 60s and you recast the characters and you have the whole thing homogenized in a 60s aesthetic with X-Men, Iron Man, brought back proper Steve Rogers. I think you could do that successfully with Steve Rogers, and the fact that when he goes back in time, he goes into another dimension and we just follow him growing up in that. And he's like, he sees a Tony Stark that's been born 20 years ahead of his time. He's still Howard's kid. And he gets, injured in Vietnam, creates his Iron Man suit. We got the X-Men school already doing their thing. Steve Rogers is the one that we follow through this new perspective, and basically it doesn't contradict anything from the very first Captain America movie, following him through Endgame, and basically now he's in another universe where it's a far more centralized version of the MCU that can actually have fun and experiment with the real stories that have been there. They're not jumping to the 80s. They're not jumping to the 90s. They're not jumping to the 2010s or 16s or 20s with Ironheart and all your derivative mantleized characters. You're in the core of that time frame where Marvel started and, essentially thrived.
Yes, but the problem is that would be smart. And these people are not smart. They're the complete opposite of smart, complete opposite of creative. They would never even think to do anything that you just said.
Well, I mean, a number of them probably would, but they're not in positions where they could actually make any headway on that. And the other part, too, is their intelligence is not on the creative side of things at all. I mean, you don't get to where you are by being an idiot. What you do get is by being a very conniving, malevolent business person.
Don't insult malevolence.
Well, I mean, that's
I resent that.
I mean, listen, I've been working in this industry for over 17 years. That is one of the ways that you can get ahead if you don't have any actual skill, is you just backstab people, make deals, and spend other people's money to get power.
Which is exactly what all these people have been doing.
It's definitely at Disney, yeah, 100%. You can follow it quite coherently. I mean, the biggest mistake that really hurt the industry is when Paramount and Ike Perlmutter decided, yes, we will sell Marvel Studios to Disney and break our contract with Paramount Pictures. Because if they didn't do that, Paramount would be leading Marvel right now, and you would probably have gotten some of the more serious and at the same time fun Marvel character stories before you would get anything like, Shang-Chi or the Eternals. You would have gotten Demon in the Bottle. You would have gotten probably Secret Wars a lot earlier, and would have been far more entertaining, because here's the one thing that Paramount was able to do that Disney wasn't, and they were able to negotiate with Universal, and were in the early talks with negotiating with Sony to get and basically rent their Marvel characters to be part of the actual MCU and with profit sharing. And as soon as Disney purchased that, those deals were gone. And instead of actually making the deals like they eventually did with Spider-Man and Sony, their first big blunder was buying Fox Studios. One, to complete their Marvel catalog one step closer, and another part to get a back catalog that they could use to replace the Loss of Dimension, Miramax, Touchstone, and Hollywood Pictures that they were able to get the more adult themed, PG-13 and above rated content out. And they blundered that as well.
Clearly.
I wonder, and this is something I've thought about and I've thrown around with Raven before, but I think that even with everything, there was a way that they could have made things work after Endgame. And I think one of the biggest problems was they didn't introduce the next villain in Endgame. That's what they should have done. If they introduced at the end of Endgame, right? It cuts to an end of credit scene where Kang comes out of a portal and gets mad because they just messed with the timeline. And they literally led up to that. I'm wondering, and again, I don't know. I think there would have been some people who checked out after Endgame regardless. But I'm wondering if they had given us something, a little bit of here's what we have planned or we're looking at next. I wonder if we would have had as big of a fallout with everything. I wonder, because I think that if they had, gone, hey, here's a good end thing. By the way, here's what we plan next. And if they hadn't, even if they had gone to the really Ironheart and Ms. Marvel and all that stuff, I still think they would have had a little bit of a bigger audience if they had given us a tease at the end, and they didn't do that.
No, I think it was Marvel, the MCU largely ran off of the charisma and the likability and relatability of the hero characters in the MCU. So I think while, yes, there might have been some change if they had introduced an interesting villain earlier on, what they should have actually done was the second that buyout was officialized for buying out Fox, whoever's in charge, Kevin Feige, or whoever's even over his head says, okay, so all of this other shit that you all were planning on, we're throwing all of that out, and we are fast-tracking X-Men, and we are fast-tracking Fantastic Four. Because that is the only way, since we just killed off or retired all of these other heroes that people have been here for and come back for film after film for the last decade, we don't have them anymore. We have to give them a reason to put their butts in the seats. And Miss Marvel ain't it.
Yeah.
Carol Danvers ain't it. Had they done Carol Danvers correctly, they could have. She could have been one of the characters that people were willing to put their butts in the seats for. However, they didn't. And instead, they went with the Kelly Sue DeConnick route of the character's personality, or rather lack thereof one.
Which is basically an assassination of that character.
Yeah, no, it's complete assassination of Carol Danvers. And honestly, that makes me every bit as mad as what they did with Spider-Man. But I'm not going to go on my Miss Marvel rant. But anyway.
Yeah, but here's the go. To your point, Captain Marvel could have been the greatest backdoor to actually do a proper secret invasion with the Skrulls being the next enemy.
Well, also could have been a great introduction to the X-Men. Give me freaking Rogue showing up and stealing Carol's powers.
Yeah, I wish they would do that. But I still think Kang should have been introduced at the end of Endgame after they screwed up the timeline. Because we all know that is something Kang cannot stand, is when someone messes with the timeline. That would have been the perfect introduction for him. And they missed it!
And then they used Loki as a way to like backdoor him, and that was stupid too. I think another big downfall for the MCU has been all the TV shows.
Absolutely.
Because nobody is going to go... The Marvels, for example, Brie Larson isn't what's going to hurt it the most. What's going to hurt it the most is that nobody's actually going to, watch WandaVision, Ms. Marvel, Secret Invasions, and then go see the movie.
What's going to hurt the Marvels is an omission of one incredibly important factor that this movie does not have attached to it. Know what that is?
No.
It's not sandwiched in between the greatest cliffhanger in cinematic history and the biggest finale in cinematic history.
This is true.
And it's not billed as something that's integral to you having context for why this character or these characters, in this movie's case, are important to this other film. This movie is going to be an addendum on these characters alone and on the current state of the MCU alone, because it's not going to have the benefit and the luxury of saying, oh, well, this character is super powerful and you're going to need to know why she's important to Endgame. The only context that we have that's useful in Endgame is how fucking satisfying it is to see Thanos punch her out of the damn film. That's the only context we need. The Marvels isn't going to have that. It's going to have what? Brie, who is like, admittedly, I guess to her credit, she's been pretty quiet the last couple of years because I think she finally got a publicist that told her to shut the hell up. And if she was written and directed in a way that's like, hey, I need to draw out personality, I need to draw out some charisma, she could do that. She's actually capable of that. That gives me physical pain to say, but it is a factual statement. The problem is she's one of three characters that nobody actually gives a shit about in this movie, that this movie is supposed to be dependent upon. And two of those characters are from Disney Plus series, one of which almost nobody watched. Miss Marvel had the lowest viewership in Disney Plus, MCU history. And then WandaVision, okay, I enjoyed the first couple episodes because I grew up watching reruns of I Love Lucy and Dick Van Dyke and stuff with my mom. But apart from that, the show was just And Monica Rambeau, I'm sorry, MCU Monica Rambeau is not Monica Rambeau. And she's useless here. They're not doing anything interesting with her. There's literally no reason. You have to give people a sense of urgency. You want people to be driven to go see your film. You want to convince people to go see your film. And that's not going to happen. This movie is honestly probably going to benefit most in an awkward way by the current situation with the strikes, because they're going to be able to fall back on that as an excuse.
Yep.
Pretty much.
I have
That
a
and no
question.
competition. I mean, there's nothing competing for it during this time slot anymore.
What do you think's going to be, or what do you think this fall's going to be like? Because now we're getting what, Monday Night Football is on every week on ABC instead of the NBC, or sorry, instead of the ESPN stuff. You think how long till we see more of these shows on pay or on free TV? Like, do you think we'll get Ahsoka on free TV, or is that
Over
been
the air
confirmed
stuff?
already?
Well, they put
Maybe.
Andor, like the first couple episodes of Andor on it there, didn't they?
They
did.
actually
They
no,
were
they definitely put
desperate.
Miss Marvel on ABC, but nobody tuned in to watch it.
Shocking.
All of my shock and awe.
The other part too is that it's going to be very difficult for Disney to put some of their shows on network because they're not consistently formatted for a half hour or hour structure.
Mhm.
I
The
never thought of it
episodes
that way.
in runtime
This is also
changed
true.
drastically. However,
Like-
stuff that was on Max, a lot of their shows like House of the Dragon, Winning Time and whatnot, they are structured similarly to traditional television, which means they could go on broadcast TV without a hitch, except they'd have to be edited for language and nudity. But aside from that, the format and discipline is there. It's not there at Disney.
I don't like how when you watch Ahsoka, besides being kind of boring at times, is it's like 1 week might be 36 minutes, then it's 49 minutes. Like The Mandalorian was the worst. I couldn't
That
stand it.
inconsistency with runtime on these Disney Plus shows is really exhausting, because the problem is there seems to be like no balance with it. Because remember when we were watching and kind of talking about season 3 of Mandalorian while that was going on, like there would be episodes where it would be like barely 30 minutes if you like remove the credits, and it would feel like, okay, this is like one of the 2 or 3 episodes that I feel like I actually wanted more of, because there was some decent or at least fun stuff or entertaining stuff happening here. And then they would just waste a 55-minute episode on useless tripe that I didn't care about. There was like nothing but setup. And it's just absolute waste. There's no consistency. It's like if you're not going to have a consistent runtime with these episodes, like say Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon does, where it's basically an hour-long runtime, right? If you're not going to do that, then freaking pace yourself. Like the episodes that people are going to want to see more of, give them more of.
Well
Why
said.
is that rocket science? I don't feel like it is.
I'm sure you're the problem somehow, man.
You know what? You're probably right. I'm a straight, like, partially white male. I like beautiful women. I like badass dudes. I like kick-ass stories. I'm the problem, man. I'm willing to give companies my money for a cool product. It's all on me. My bad, guys. I'm the problem. I'm the
Yeah.
problem. It's me.
It's about damn time you apologize publicly.
Is that what you think?
No, it doesn't matter what I think, right?
Yeah, you you son of a bitch.
No one's gonna out-rock me on my own show.
Yeah, I should have known who I was dealing with. That is on me.
Well, let's get to my favorite part of every show. It's checking in
Super
with
chat
the audience.
wrap-up.
Yeah, let's check in with everybody. I'd like to thank our friend Joseph Bienowicz for introducing Master of TDS as well as the Writing Raven into the world of Steiner math, because you're never going to forget that.
I think I
Troubles-
will.
I think I forgot it already.
Yeah,
Well-
me too. It's just not my thing. I'm sorry.
But
One,
no, they say that all
it's
men are
math.
created
Well,
equal.
one, it's math, and 2, it's wrestling. Both things
You
I
don't
don't like.
You don't like math?
Math is evil. And master and math are not on speaking terms.
Yep.
Math is... I can't believe I'm thinking of going to bat for math. I hated math in high school and college. Fuck it. But I'm just like, how do you...
I like math. Math helps me make money.
That it does.
Math
But
is evil.
I didn't need to know what an Euler circuit was. I feel like that was a waste of time, but it's a topic for another day. Shrubbles Away asks for a couple buttons, message, and I'll take another. So first off, we'll give you the message since I'm already on this tab. So folks, here you go.
Message! Message! Message!
The hell was that?
It was beautiful.
Whatever it was, I deleted it from my brain.
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing is, you might think that is a creepy image, but it's actually a really important part of a movie. It's called Don't Be a Menace to South Central While Drinking Your Juice in the Hood. And it parodies all of the early 90s black movies. But then it'll go into like actual important messages that those movies tend to overlook or just pass up. And they'll have him go, message, every moment that happens. So it's a good movie. The Wayans used to make good stuff.
Never heard of it.
Now, here's a button, also Shribbles.
Another one. Another one. Another one. Another one. Another one.
I could just watch that cyclist getting destroyed all day.
Do you want to see
getting hurt is the best.
Do you want to see it happen again?
Yes.
Don't encourage this.
Hold on.
I have to deal with her the rest of the night. You don't.
That sounds like a personal problem.
I don't think this will hurt, though.
Did you see that guy accidentally hit that moose with his car?
No.
Holy shit. Jamie, pull that video up.
Oh my god, oh my god. Oh my god.
Glorious.
No. That was a ripoff. There was no moose.
Did you need to see the moose? There is the
Yes!
moose button.
The point wasn't the moose, but okay.
Give me the
Look
moose!
Fine, you're our guest for the evening. Here's the moose.
Did you see that guy accidentally hit that moose with his car?
No.
Holy shit. Jamie, pull that video up.
Oh my god, oh my god. Oh my god.
You know, I half believe that video is fake because there's no way that dude hit that moose, that big freaking animal, and his car is not completely totaled.
I'm just upset that there's no blood.
Well, there's more to the video. The moose gets right back up and runs off.
Of course it does. I'm just still upset that there was no blood. Shame.
Behave.
No, I don't wanna.
Well,
Sorry,
Mr.
I
Floppy.
got bloodlusty.
Well, this is talking about Halloween, so it might fit into this. Mr. Floppy Knickers says, my Halloween issue is it's either super cutesy now or ultra slutty. Bring back dads chasing kids down the street with chainsaws. Chainless chainsaws and screams. I kind of like a nice medium between all of those things, because some of my favorite college memories were around Halloween. So, Mr. Floppy Knickers, I don't like the super cutesy Halloween, but I do like, I don't know, I just like horror movies and fun stuff like that. Raven, what's your favorite horror movie? Did I ask you that already?
I don't have one. I actually, and
She
this
hates
is a
horror
very
movies.
ungoth. This is one of my ungoth confessions. Yes, that is a thing. I actually can't watch horror movies. They freak me
I
out.
can.
Wow.
Well, what's your favorite then?
Well, I don't have a favorite. I will say the one recently that I liked was we actually watched Nefarious recently. I don't know if you guys heard of that one.
I have.
It was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
If you ever want to watch something weird, folks, in the chat, watch Barbarian. It's one of those movies that starts out, it's got the psycho twist where you think it's going to be one thing about Bill Skarsgård and this woman living in a house together, and then it becomes something completely different. Pull a page out of Monty Python, if you will.
Bill Skarsgård is good.
He is good. He's very creepy. Adam Wofford, what is up? He says, how many white girls follow Jeff? Answer is yes. 10 million miles to Goth.
I mean, based on your response with the whole pumpkin spice thing at the top of the show, I have reason to believe.
I'm sorry, but pumpkin spice is only good for sweetening the blood of your enemies.
You know, I have a friend that I was texting earlier today. She would
Interesting
love to hear
follow-up.
you say that. She probably, because she was messaging me earlier. She's like, I'm watching Halloween and now Vincent Price movies, and she called his voice, what is it, gothic butteriness. So yeah, I can send screenshots if you needed to see it, but that was an actual conversation I had today. So let's see. We had some titles from Adam Wofford. He had 10 Million Miles to Goth, Highlander, the new Gothic, Batman, the Gothic Crow 66 and 13, please. Oh, okay. He had some button requests. Well, here's number 66.
Who is it?
Who's this? Hello?
Say again, what is it?
It's the FBI.
Where are you?
Man, you called us.
Get the hell back into town.
All right, look, man. All right, hold up. Calm down. Want to blow something up? Huh? Come on. Now, I'm trying to hook you up, man. Push the button. Come on. Push the button.
Look out, slow down. What? Over there, look.
God damn!
Dude,
Let me guess, he survived that.
he is one of my favorite movie characters ever.
Raven, no, that's Ben Tramer. He dies there, and there's a scene that follows that where they go to the morgue and they check his dental records because they think he's actually Michael Myers, and so the police, instead of hunting down Michael Myers as intently as they should, they think they accidentally killed him. So that allows Michael Myers to get away. It's a storytelling element that I'm not necessarily in love with, but it's my favorite scene in that movie. Also, Adam Wofford, you requested another 13.
Oh, fuck, say it!
I loved the Tourette's guy. Go on Commando. Great name. He says, Jeff got Stealing Solo in the mail. It flippin' rocks. Bud can't wait for the rest of the trilogy. Glad my... First off, I'll say it like this. Thank you very much. I'm glad you liked the book. It makes me very happy to know that people are picking up a copy, enjoying it. It was a pleasure to write. It was a pleasure to draw. And believe me, the rest of it's getting closer and closer. The demand is still there for this book, which is cool. So to give me time to finish up Woke Busters and work on some other stuff, and when it's all sold out, I will start writing the sequel and then Frankenfisher. That's going to be the one that'll probably get us sued. No, all joking aside, though, Going Commando also says, glad my pops passed away in 94 before he could see what Star Wars has become. Big ups, Dad. Well, I don't think he would have enjoyed what was out, because your average Star Wars fan does not enjoy what is out. I'd say most Star Wars fans don't enjoy what is out. And that's sad, but it is what it is. But Going Commando, thank you again very much for getting a copy of Stealing Solo. Folks, stealingsolo.com is the only place to get it. And these are the first edition printings, the high quality, well, if I'm selling you a book, it's high quality, but these are the ones with the original Harrison Ford covers. So if you want to get one of those that's designed like a Star Wars toy box, well then stealingsolo.com is the only place to get it. TLJ Screwjob, thank you very much for your generous super chat. TLJ Screwjob says, same for me, Master of TDS. I said that a while ago, but I watched New Hope for my 30th birthday right before Kenobi came out. And as the credit rolled through, I thought, that was okay. No desire to watch Empire Strikes Back.
Wow.
It's a shame, unfortunately, that when you watch the new stuff, sometimes you just it impacts the old. I wish we could kind of like just separate the two. Some people can, and I just can't do it.
I can. It's quite easy because, number one, the budgets are reasonable in the original trilogy. And number two, there's actually heart there. You don't see any of that in the sequel stuff.
It's Master's apathy at work.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's as I said, that moment in the theater was when something about Star Wars just died for me in that moment.
So basically, at some point, somehow, Disney managed to fool you into thinking this was Star Wars.
Oh no, it didn't fool me at all. I just saw that and I was expecting so much more from that. It was just like, oh, so this is what we're going to get now. And it just kind of, again, I can watch the originals or whatever. It wouldn't be a problem. I'm just kind of stopping and not watching anything Star Wars related, hoping that like I will feel somewhat the same that I used to. Like because
Okay,
Star Wars
cool.
for me was watching with my dad as a kid. Wonder and excitement. And while I can still watch Star Wars and stuff now, some of that, a little bit of that has been lost. And so I'm waiting for a time where I can get some of that back. So.
Xavier to God says, I saw my first Star Wars memory were the first 6 movies: the Clone Wars show, the first 3 Lego games, Battlefront, Elite Squadron, and the Force Unleashed games. Force Unleashed was fun. The second one kind of pissed me off when they killed off Han Solo and all the... That was like DLC, was to kill off the original trilogy characters. And then I saw it on film, and it sucked just as much.
I read the novelization of Force Awakens. We have that. I liked
Force
it.
Unleashed.
Yes, sorry. Force Unleashed is what I meant to say. Screw you, Disney!
I would have hated a novelization of The Force Awakens. They still have it for sale over at Ollie's, and I'm not going to buy
Oh,
it.
the novelization of Rise of Skywalker absolutely sucks.
Just like the movie.
Indeed. The person cannot write.
TLJ Screwjob says, look no further than no black leads in movies than Black Panther and Marvel media saying the first black superhero lead. Is Wesley Snipes a joke to them? Dude.
I will not
why are
tolerate
they forgetting
disrespect
Meteor
to
Man?
Blade.
I was just about to say Robert Townsend. You know why they forget Meteor Man's script?
Because of Blank Man?
Yes, because Blank Man was superior. But I'm a proponent of Handyman, but the world's not ready for a Handyman film just yet.
That's true.
Folks, if you haven't seen Blank Man, you should watch it. It's Damon Wayans and David Alan Grier. And it's wackier than an Adam West Batman episode, but it's also a 90s movie, so it's kind of fun. And
Yeah, David Alan Grier really does shine in that film.
what doesn't he shine in?
Yeah, that's a good question because he always steals the show whenever I see him appear.
Have you seen Tales from the Hood?
Not in a while.
All I was going to say is the part where he plays the abusive stepdad. He goes from like David Alan Grier to like a different dude, and I'm like, whoa! I didn't realize David Alan Grier had that much range. It's usually he's just kind of a wacky, zany guy, and there he was serious. I was like, oh shit, that's the scariest part of that movie. So check it out. If you do watch it, text me and tell me what you think.
Yeah, actually, I do have it on DVD right behind me. So yeah,
Don't watch the sequel.
I was unaware there was a sequel, but I'll probably put that in this weekend. Yeah.
I'll tell you this: the sequel is the most, and I don't talk like this, but this is the most racist movie I've ever seen because it's like multiracial families, but it's made by a black dude, Rusty Cundiff, and I'm like, what is this? Basically, because a black dude works for a Donald Trump insert character, he's supposed to kill himself and let his kid grow up without a... It's the weirdest movie. It doesn't know what its politics are. It's terrible. You should watch it and tell me what you think. You're a smart guy. I'd love to hear what you think.
All right, I'll have to find a sequel to Tales from the Hood.
Good luck. You're gonna need it. But TLJ Screwjob, or who was that? I'm sorry, a second ago. Yeah, TLJ Screwjob, thank you very much. He also says, I know what the person drawing the cover was focused on in the angle of Kurt, the half-demon cock. Did Rachel Summers draw that? I always look at, even like you'll see some people say like weird art or bad art in comic books. I always look at it from a different, point of view. And that cover was a fine action shot. Yes, I'm not into Nightcrawler Dong, but I get it. Some people are. There was that Batman book that had his bat dong in it, and I thought that was a little weird. The Black Label book from a couple years ago.
I remember that. That was something I did not need to see.
Yeah, that was not I don't mind more mature stories being told under Black Label. I think that was actually a good move on paper. But nobody needed to see that. Like, you could remove that and literally nothing changes. Other than we don't see something that we didn't need to see.
Well, I so happened to be in possession of a copy of that book. It was given to me back then, so it's valuable, so I got that. That's cool, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you have the uncensored copy, yeah, it is.
I do. I have the first printing. Adam Wofford says he looks like that one guy from Kingdom of Heaven. Oh, the dude on screen? Yeah, he
Baldwin was it Baldwin the Fourth? Baldwin,
is that Alec or Billy?
No, King Baldwin, not the not like Alec. It was actually played by Edward Norton. People don't know. But that's because he was a leper and he had a mask on the entire time.
TLJ Screwjob says, TDS, does Ezra jump around like a Kansas City? Oh, God. I know what you're talking about. I don't... TDS, does Ezra jump around like he's from Kansas City?
No idea. All I know is that he looks interesting.
Well, I saw him in the hologram or whatever, and I was like, this dude has giant ears. And that's all I thought to myself. Darian217, what is up? He says, that's a rebel stormtrooper with some style and bling. He got gold plating on his armor. Wonder how it holds up to stairs. Joe Rogan stormtrooper, please.
Here it comes.
Yeah. So do you think this stormtrooper could survive this?
Did you see that guy accidentally hit that moose with his car?
No.
Holy shit. Jamie, pull that video up.
Oh my god, oh my god. Oh my god.
Lit up.
That was funny.
This is Ezra right here, huh?
Yep.
Wait, who?
That's Ezra Bridger.
Doesn't look anything like Star Wars. I mean,
I thought you guys were saying Ezra Miller.
Nope, that's Ezra Bridger.
I could look if he hasn't had time to like get a trim or anything like that, or like actually spend much time doing it. Okay, fine, but it's his outfit that just doesn't seem like it fits.
He looks like he belongs in some sort of crappy fantasy novel.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna be mean, okay? And this totally meant as a joke, but he looks like someone who's gonna serve you at a 7-Eleven. I'm sorry.
Wow.
I'm sorry. I can't be the only one who sees that.
I think he looks like he's going to fight alongside James Bond in The Living Daylights against the Russians, but that's just me. He doesn't look Star Wars-y, though. And it's kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
TLJ Screwjob says, EFAP's reaction to the Balin ship slowly descending to the Starhenge and them slowly walking up to it made me want to Epstein myself. Whew. Well, please don't, TLJ Screwjob. We enjoy you here each and every week. So, if it's a slow show, you know what, folks? If you're ever watching bad entertainment, go to our Facebook group or our Twitter or our Facebook page and just come to rant. You know, if you need a place to rant, WCBS is the place for you. Joseph Bianowicz, thank you very much for your Steiner chat. Greatly appreciate that. That was a lot of fun. TLJ Screwjob says, Raven must want to be checked directly into the SmackDown Hotel. Something Y2J plan, something KY jelly plan, size 13 boot. You're probably like, what the hell do they
shine it up real nice?
I literally do not understand any of those references.
So you know the actor Dwayne Johnson, right?
Yes.
Okay, he used to be the biggest pro wrestler ever. And no, seriously, he was like Hulk Hogan popular. He was a household name. Before he was an actor, he was a big wrestler, The Rock. And so everybody knows The Rock around here. He's the jabroni beaten, pie eaten. More things you don't know for 500, Alex. Darius H.
I finished it in my head.
Thank you. Not afraid to sweat, not afraid to bleed. Darius H says, yo, that sounds like a great idea for one of our watch-alongs. Yeah, it does sound like a great idea.
Probably in reference to the Dragon Ball one?
Yeah.
I'm gonna guess. Yeah. Care for it.
I love how every week people are like, are you guys watching Ahsoka again? And we're like, that was a once.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a once in a lifetime. That was John Cena versus The Rock.
Well, you made a
never
good
before,
comparison.
never again.
You made a great comparison because I was thinking maybe we could do the finale, and then it's like, hey, John Cena and The Rock happened twice, so there we go.
That was deliberate.
Xavier to God says the Dragon Ball channels are Geekdom 101, Quadman's Land, Laughingstock Media, Dragon Ball Nation, Blackened Fist, and for lore, guides, what ifs, and verses. Let me take a screenshot of that, because I like DBZ enough that it would be fun to do a stream with these guys. I will reach out. Thank you, Xavier to God. TLJ Screwjob says, purple lightsaber. Did it say bad mother effer on it? That'd be cool if your lightsaber did say that.
If it doesn't say bad
jealous.
mother effer, meaning it's not Mace Windu's, or it's not Revan's, then it's not a real one.
Considering it was one of those generic lightsabers that just had a random handle, random color that you would find in Target way back when, and that I was never allowed to watch that movie as a child? No, it did not.
Wait, you weren't allowed to watch Star Wars or Pulp Fiction?
Pulp Fiction.
Okay.
I still haven't seen it, actually.
I mean, I guess as a kid, that's not entirely unfair.
No, but I still haven't seen that movie.
We have a list of movies that we need to
There
get
is a
on.
gigantic list of movies that we need to watch, that people keep on telling us to watch, because we weren't allowed to in a Jewish household.
Well, you're going to enjoy Pulp Fiction.
Pulp Fiction has some phenomenal scenes.
We only recently finally watched Alien for the first time.
Wow.
Really?
That's how behind we are.
You have to keep in mind, if you ever seen, and maybe you were walking somewhere, driving somewhere, you ever see those people who wear the black suits and the black hats and have the long sideburns. You ever see one of those?
Orthodox Jew?
Yes. Yeah. That's literally the community we grew up in. We're both modern Orthodox. So
modern Orthodox meaning that we listen to non-Jewish music, we actually have interests in pop culture, and we don't follow the rules as strictly, but I still keep a very kosher kitchen.
Yeah, so keep in mind, like, we're talking that some of our friends weren't even allowed to have TVs. So we were lucky to even have them.
Yeah, like I said, I had that one friend who I literally had to get her parents' permission for any movie that we watched at my slumber party.
Now, I mean, this is a serious question, but as you get older and you consume these things, do you find yourself connecting with, other people more? Or do you find yourself, like, looking back and realizing, like, oh, this is what people were talking about, or, oh, this was the thing that was popular? Like, do you have those, or do you just kind of watch these things in a vacuum and think, oh, that was a fine movie, and kind of move on? Do you not think of the cultural relevance?
I would say kind of both.
Yeah, I was gonna say kind of both. It depends. It depends on what it is that we're watching and how much impact it has still.
Like when we were watching Alien, and they had the part where they were walking through the alien ship, and there were all these practical effects. We were like, why can't we have practical effects like this anymore? Why does everything now have to be CGI? Bring back practical effects, damn it.
They were perfecting stuff, and, then they all went in computers, so. Wander says, still have the first I got as a kid. No lights or sounds, but could fully retract and had a clip so you could hang it off your belt. Also very durable.
Yes, those are the ones I'm talking about. I had one in purple and one in red. Basically, I was revving.
Oh, okay. I always went for the Jedi, the good guys. Blue and green lightsabers were my go-to.
Screw the light side. Come to the dark side. We have cake, cookies, and kitties.
Honestly, if I could pick, I would just go the route of, like, Rebel Alliance or, own a couple starships. Shit, I'd be like a above board
I'd be
job
a
of the
freighter.
Hutt.
Yeah, like a courier guy, traveling from ship to ship. Planet to planet, dropping off stuff, picking up stuff, meeting strange people, getting into bar fights.
You'd be a rogue trader.
Yeah,
rogue trader. You mean?
Yeah.
Sprucker. I could get behind that lifestyle. Eastbound and down.
Yeah.
Hammer down Lightspeed and trucking. Got it. Let's see. Wander also says lightsaber. Why do I forget the simplest things? Oh, we understood what you mean, though, Wander. Thank you, though, for sending in your clarification. Now, I think this is a newer listener, and if so, welcome. Taylor Swift, greater than Disney Star Wars, says, Script, what caused storytelling to get so bad? I'm sorry, that name just gets to me.
Do you want the short list or the long list?
Well, I mean, with a short list, you could say Emily Goldstein didn't help. She wrote a number of essays saying pushing diversity and equality and equity. Or not equality, diversity and equity and all that type of stuff, which a lot of desperate people who are not getting much work saw as a means to get in the door, because they thought they were being rejected for their appearance as opposed to the fact that they sucked. And that's actually the case. I've actually been in programs where potentially really good writers, like they're on the cusp of being really good, they get yanked up a couple of steps ahead of their skill set, and the pressure breaks them to the point where, number one, they cannot articulate or fight for the ideas that they have, and as a result, they just crumple under a studio exec's notes to basically deliver crap. I've seen them have all this potential just completely vanish because the entire industry is 99% rejection. You are very lucky if you get a yes. And even getting a yes is only one step closer, because there's so many other people after that first yes that could say no and destroy it all. And when you have this kind of backdoor aspect of it, it ruins potentially great writers, and it also enables those that sucked, that just have no other means to break in. A lot of that is through nepotism. Friends of friends, cousin, people that married into the families or what have you. Those were a lot of backdoor aspects. And then the other part too is the modern education system worldwide, especially in the West. They don't like to teach the classics, and they don't have teachers capable of teaching the classics or understanding what, like, finding a teacher that could give you a solid definition of what theme is a rarity these days, and has been a rarity for almost 20 years. And because of, if you're not getting an education to understand what theme is, or in character development, motivation, why, story as a structure is your starting point, and then the mastery of it is being able to hide the structure and execution. Those types of arcs, those types of lessons are not nurtured enough when it comes to the youth of education. In fact, we've been geared away from valuing our entertainment and our stories to merely looking at them as disposable. And as a result, when you have so much disposable content, you think that's all you need to do to achieve, success in the industry. Just make something disposable that you don't go back to. And that is kind of what's been manipulating the industry all this time. We have a whole generation of writers coming in that saw the straight to DVD market, saw Asylum films, grew up with them, thinking those were pretty passable and that they could do better. And even if they could, you're not supposed to be competing with the bottom of the barrel. You're supposed to be competing with the top tier. And the moment you forget that's what you're competing against is the moment when you suffer and lose as a writer, and everybody else loses as a result. So that's why stuff has been bad.
Well said.
Yeah. Script, I was going to take a timestamp for that and might just go back to that later myself.
3 hour, 3 minute mark.
Thank you. You make the great point, and you know exactly when you started talking. Perfect.
Well, we do have a timer on the screen.
Well, yeah, but believe me, I was like, wait, I got to take that down. Believe me, there's a lot of stuff that goes on in the back end. TLJ Screwjob, or Taylor Swift, thank you very much. TLJ Screwjob says, Bree's publicist equals Ben Stiller from Happy Gilmore.
Oh, just going to make smarts and crafts. Yeah.
I love that fucking movie.
I know a number of people that worked on it. They're very hysterical.
I will put you to sleep. Have you ever heard the theory that Ben Stiller's character from Dodgeball is the same character from the movie Heavyweights?
No, but now I have to check out Heavyweights again.
Yeah, that was a good movie. I really liked it as a kid. Shrubbles08 says, I'll take a Brie Larson up to the moon in a horses for the Goth fans. Sure. Well, guys, you're about to see something really weird in a second. But first, let's show you something that a lot of people love here on the channel.
You got knocked the fuck out, man!
Since Andrew loves Chris Tucker so much, there we go.
Yes, I do.
And then finally, here's a button you won't find on any other YouTube channel.
Who are you? What are you doing here, and where are my horses?
Okay.
Exactly the response I was hoping to get.
Yeah, I don't know how to. I don't know how to respond to that.
That's Dion's favorite.
Now, Darian217, one of everyone's favorites, has to pile on and says, push the other horse button for the Goth.
What's creepy is it's like the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, where you can see some of the real actors behind the makeup. Their mouth,
Yeah.
and like 2 sets of teeth. That's
It's nightmare fuel.
Yeah,
only a little bit.
A few more of these, and then we'll close the show out, folks. Thank you for everybody's wonderful support here on the channel, and for all the new listeners, like Taylor Swift's Greater Than Disney Star Wars. MCU and Star Wars still going into 2033, yes or no?
most likely.
Probably just not to the same degree that we've been seeing.
Yeah, any hiatus you would see publicly wise with regards to development of those properties is not an intentional thing. It just means that they haven't developed something that they're willing to put into production as soon as they can. That's one thing studios, whenever they have an IP, they don't like sitting on it. Every studio has a whole bunch of books that they're just dying to adapt, and they are putting out assignments constantly, and people are doing their pitches. And so far, for some of your favorite books that haven't been adapted to a movie, no one has nailed the pitch yet to the people that hold those rights. And until they do, you're not going to see the movie. But it doesn't mean that they're not spending lots of money trying to develop it.
My answer will be yes to MCU, and then, like you said, though, the hiatuses aren't planned, but I think there'll be a big gap in Star Wars, because I'm going to take the big step and say, I don't think this whole trilogy is going to get made, and that Lando movie ain't happening. I know they're saying it's happening now, but how many times did you hear that Rian Johnson's trilogy was happening, or this or that was getting made?
Rian Johnson's trilogy.
It's the Knives Out trilogy. That's what it is. Like, that's how they're going to change it.
They were
Because
right
it does
all
take
along.
place in another galaxy, and that's ours.
And you got to be far, far away if you enjoy it. No, I've seen worse movies than Knives Out, but Glass Onion I did not like.
I heard Knives Out was a serviceable mystery movie. I just didn't want to support Rian Johnson, but I heard from people that saw it, they're like, yeah, this was fine or even good. But that just speaks more to me that, like, yeah, keep him in his own sandbox. Keep him the hell out of mine.
Taylor Swift, Greater Than Disney Star Wars, again, thank you, says, today's word, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
No. Not saying that.
12 angry supercalifragilisticexpialidociouses?
It's easier to say than that town in Wales.
Which one's that?
It's I can't pronounce it because it's a very long name, but it's said twice in the movie Barbarella.
Are you serious? Wow.
Yeah.
That's funny.
My favorite Barbarella factoid is that the band Duran Duran gets their name from that movie.
Yep.
Did they really?
Yeah.
Yes, they did. They
That's
even have a song
hysterical.
called Electric Barbarella.
So I just love
Folks-
Hungry Like the Wolf.
It's a good song. Folks in the chat, while we're closing out our last couple super chats, tell us your favorite Duran Duran song. I'll put anyone that says A View to a Kill up on screen.
I feel like mine is a little biased, so.
What, Hungry Like the... Well, I mean, I get that, but if it wasn't for A View to a Kill, that might be my favorite one, so... It's just a James Bond song that I love. Taylor Swift, Greater Than Disney Star Wars, again, says world-class Goths, caffeinated Goth, and Goth Doctor.
Cool.
You know, Goth Doctor has the same amount of syllables as Goldfinger, and we could do a whole song about that, but we won't. TLJ Screwjob also says, Ezra looks like he's from the Spittle East, so that's Space Middle East. Okay. That's why I said he looks like he's going to team up with James Bond to fight the Russians in the Living Daylights, because they teamed up with the, was it the Mujahideen or whatever, to fight the Soviets.
Yeah.
Let's see. Xavier God says, Jeff, Mike from Laughingstock Media watches the Thursday show. At least I saw him once in the chat. I thought the name sounded familiar. I will reach out and see what is up. Because I'm always down to have some fun guests. We have some fun guests here tonight. Okay, Laughingstock Media, here we go. Oh, cool. I will reach out to them. TLJ Screwjob, finally for the evening, says, thanks to Adama, there's a TFT Tales from the Hood 3. Jeff, you know what it means. What that means, a WCBS reaction party. And one of the cast is someone you guys prank called. Oh, it's Tony Todd. Yeah. This is the last story of the night. I was at a horror convention, and my friend got hit on by Tony Todd. Because she's one of the white girls that follows me on Facebook. There we go. No, but I know her quite well, and Tony Todd likes, white women like that. And she's like, yeah, I got his phone number. So we're at a con. We're up at the hotel. We're all drinking. I was like, dude, give me the number. And so I prank called Candyman. And it was... there's a video of it. If I can find the video, I'll put it on Patreon. But, yeah, we had a lot of fun with that one. So, Master of TDS, Writing Raven, where can everyone find you on the internet?
Honey, would you like to tell them?
Yeah, sure. You can find us both on Twitter. We're on there. Well, I just hit 10,000 followers on there, which is crazy. You can also find us on our channel. We have a channel where we run together. It's called Gothic Therapy. We're actually, normally we're not live, but given that there's a lot of Jewish holidays.
It's the high holidays right now, so we have no time to actually make our weekly videos.
So, yeah, we're going to be going live for the next couple weeks on Wednesdays. And actually, we'll be live tomorrow at 7 p.m. Pacific time. We'll be doing our more chill show, which is called Therapy and Chills. So we're just going to kind of be hanging out and kind of catching up on some stuff. So you can find us there.
Mm-hmm. You can also, if anyone wants to read some of writing that I've done, you can find me on my Wattpad, which is Gothic Writer 613. I would appreciate the support and feedback.
Now, Script, where can everyone find you on the internet, sir?
Well, you can find me on Twix at ScriptDoctor PhD. I also have a YouTube channel where I go live and do some videos on occasion. Not too consistently, but I do when I can, when time allows. And I also have a Patreon where I do screenplay reviews. I do film and television written reviews, as well as tricks and tips for bettering your writing, and occasionally get some really cool one-on-one and group conversations about various subjects regarding entertainment and our love for story. So you can check that out. It comes with signing up on the basic tier is a 7-day free trial. So you get to see all my backlogged articles. And if it's to your liking, you can hit support. And if not, no harm, no foul. Thanks for stopping by.
And you can listen to us talk about Spider-Man over there. That was a fun time.
Yes, you can. And soon you'll be able to listen to me and Andrew talking The Flash.
And I promise you will never to read. You will never come across a more well-read Flash fan in this space.
Andrew, you don't have to say everything so nice about me. I appreciate that, though.
Credit where credit's due. Credit where credit's due. I truly believe in acknowledging legitimate fans and not fake-ass ones. So,
and that's why we're all here to celebrate the Golden Girls tonight, folks.
Hey,
the sitcom of the 80s.
Again, credit where credit's due.
Now, I'd like to give credit to our friend Taylor Swift Greater Than Disney Star Wars, who's been a member for 4 months, but how do I not know this name? I apologize. Thank you for all the support, though. He says, Mission Impossible got run over by Barbenheimer. Didn't go to M7, but bought a ticket to help it. You left Writing Raven's name off the title. You're fired. Yeah, that was my fault. I apologize.
It's all good. My husband's more popular than me anyway.
No, that's not true.
You're the one with 10,000 followers. I'm still in the 2,000s.
That doesn't mean I'm more popular.
If you would like to send some of them my way, I am popular off you by proxy.
No, you're popular because you're you, regardless.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I do love being me.
Andrew, did I say your outro already?
You did not, but I'll say it from my damn self. My favorite place to be every week, guys, is right here on the best Tuesday night show in this space, High Council, over on World Class Bullshitters, every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Central, give or take a few minutes. Otherwise, over on the weekends, you can catch me on my Twitch, where I stream Mario Kart with friends, and my Discord community, just to relax, unwind, and kind of kick off the new week, right before Monday hits. Otherwise, you can find me on Twitter. You can find me on, I guess technically you can find me on Instagram, though I don't really use it. But I am the creative and social media manager and one of the editors over at First Publishing LLC. And you should greatly be looking forward to Alpha Core by Chuck Dixon. It is a very Chuck Dixon book.
Hell yeah. Folks, you can find me here on this channel, but you're already here, so thank you to everybody. We're working our way to 200K, and we'll be there this year. We finally blew past the 192 slump, thanks to YouTube and all their buffoonery, but here we are at 193, folks, and we're on our way. Well, we're decently on the way to 194. So, folks, when we get to 200K, we're going to have a huge celebration. We're going to have a bunch of coffee, get wired, and, well, never mind. I'm not going to quote Beverly Hills Cop because people might think we're going to do something else here. But we're going to have a great time coming up, so be on the lookout for that. If you haven't checked out this week's toy video, make sure you check that out. It's doing well, very well. And Wokebusters, I am deep into production. I told Andrew how many pages I have left. I finished the one I was working on a little bit during the stream, so you guys didn't even know about that, but I'm happy with it. And so that'll be coming your way. But the folks in the chat, if you haven't had Stealing Solo yet, go to stealingsolo.com and get yourself a copy right now of the greatest Star Wars parody since Spaceballs. It answers the greatest question of all time as well. What if a group of disgruntled Star Wars fans kidnapped Harrison Ford and forced him to remake Star Wars in their basement? It's been called Laugh Out Loud Funny, and I'm quite proud of the work. So, folks, thank you for watching. We'll be back next time with more. But in the meantime, be smart, be safe, be cool, but always be excellent to each other.
Did you see that guy accidentally hit that moose with his car?
No.
Holy shit. Jamie, pull that video up.
Oh my god, oh my god.